Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Justin from Rapzilla, and we are here for another episode of Community During Chaos. This is episode 22, which is crazy. We have a special show tonight. We have GitemJay, we have Monster Tarver, former WWE superstar, and we have Thi'sl. Yeah, man, you DM'd me. I think you had tweeted something out about your testimony about where you've come from, and then I DM'd you, and I was like, "What's your story?" And then you mentioned it, and then I never saw the DM until weeks later, and I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy. We need to talk about this."
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let you tell that story, but before we get into that, for everybody tuning in, and for Jay's people tuning in, my name is Justin. I'm the editor of Rapzilla. This is Community During Chaos. Every single week, I get together with 3 different people within the community, within the CHH space, and we talk about solutions, positivity, leadership. How can we navigate through this craziness of whether it's COVID, social justice, race. Now we're going to throw the whole elections tomorrow into the mix. So we'll see what next week is like when I do this show. But it's just been a great time. 22 straight weeks we've been doing this. So that would make Thi'sl tonight would be the 66th guest that I've spoken to.
Okay.
In 22 weeks, which is wild. A lot of talking. So this is GitemJay. He's a rapper, and he's got a great testimony. But first, let's kick it off the same way I kick it off with everybody. What has your 2020 been like? How have you been able to navigate through this chaos and, just keep living?
Man, well, right at the beginning, it's been rough, man. Right at the beginning, my wife lost her grandparents to COVID in Arizona.
Oh,
you know
man.
what I mean?
Sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough, man. And really like I've never really lost anybody close to me like that. I'm kind of almost, I'm not an orphan, you know what I mean? But I kind of grew up separate from my family. I was in a jail all my life and just in the streets and stuff. So I never really formed a bond, but she had a bond with her grandparents, and they had both passed. And so it hit her really hard. And then, so being a husband, trying to help her get through that, I wasn't prepared for that. And, it's funny because you think you're such a super Christian, you read the Bible and you got these, I've got people saved. I'm actually a pastor and a chaplain too, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, but then when when it hits home, it's like, man, when you have to deal with that thing right in front of you, it was kind of difficult. So we had a couple of ups and downs there, just like everybody else, but we got through it, and really just sticking to my word, man, is really what got us through it, and I fell off for a minute, as far as my spiritual exercises, not as far as leaving Christ, because, I'm sealed by the Holy Spirit, but just as far as like my spiritual exercise, the Bible says we got to exercise ourselves unto godliness. And I kind of fell off into that. So I got flabby in the spirit, and so once you start getting flabby in the spirit, you're not really, you can't really hit, when those attacks come, you're not really prepared for them. So I started getting back in my word. And then from there, we've been so blessed, man. We haven't had to deal with any unemployment issues or any money issues,
Awesome.
It's super stressful. But yeah, that's, just getting in the word, man, and just sticking into my community. We do Bible study Mondays and Fridays, with this church I'm a pastor at. And, man, it's just a blessing, man. It's been a blessing,
Yeah. And how has your church dynamic been? Like what sort of conversations are you having within your church with everything that's going on? I know it's hard to, because these things are polarizing and so many people feel different ways about things that are going on, but it's also important as a leader of a church, right, to have a steady voice for your congregation and the people that you're leading.
No doubt. That's a good point, man. And, I'm not going to say we thought it was a game, but I mean, our pastor ended up getting it. Our senior pastor ended up getting it and was in the hospital, who's actually my spiritual father. You know what I mean? And so it was really like, it hit home even again, and now, we're prepared, man, because there's a lot of different people have different types of, conditions, you know, and he had asthma. And so when it got him, you know, the asthma, that's like one of the worst things you could have for it. And so now we're just keeping people, you know, and I wouldn't say that, you know, we thought it was a joke. Like we weren't like on the other side, like, oh, this is a hoax, you know what I mean? Because we had already lost my parents, but, you know, we're all young and strong. And so we're kind of like, you know, we were like,
feel
you
invincible.
know, yeah, you know what I mean? And then when it hit him, and he's probably one of the strongest dudes I know, you know, and when it hit him, it's like, oh, snap, you know? And so we probably, you know, we were having meetings and stuff, and we probably should have been taking a little extra precaution with the social distancing and with the masks and stuff. But we've done that, and you know, we've been doing Zoom meetings on Monday and Friday, and it's been pretty live. Sometimes, you know, we get pretty deep in there, but it's been pretty good, man. You know, but yeah, we're definitely aware that it is a real thing. You know, it's not a hoax. You know.
Dope. And now I want to get to your testimony, your story. And you briefly just said, you know, you were in and out of jail your whole life. So
yeah.
What is your deal, man? Like what's the whole story? And yeah, man, I want to hear it.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. And you know, first of all, I really want to thank you, man, for reaching out to me, because you don't really have to reach out to anybody. You know what I mean? You know, and the fact that you do that, and that you're, you know, I know a lot of people are big on we're not CHH, but the Bible calls us to be separate, bro. And so I just want to big you up, man, for maintaining this platform, man, for young Christian artists. And I like how you kind of weed out the guys who aren't serious, you know, and make everybody, you know, just bring their excellence, you know what I mean? Because that's really what we're called to do, is serve God with excellence, you know what I mean? And so I appreciate that, man. But so, yeah, you know, my story starts a long time ago, man, in Los Angeles. My you know, shout out to the Lakers. I don't know if you can see my Lakers shirt, but yeah, you know, my mom had me when she was 14.
It's a bad time for me.
It's always a bad time. You know, I love the Knicks, though. I love the Knicks, man. I thought, you know, I do love the Knicks. I do. I like when Carmelo was there and Lynn Sanity, man. I was happy, and then all of a sudden it just went. I don't know. That
was the last joy I had. But go ahead, man. Go get into it,
bro. Yeah. So my mom had me at 14 when we were lived in Los Angeles. We lived in like shelters and cars and like on the sides of the road and type stuff. You know what I mean? And eventually what ends up happening is we end up moving up to Washington, Vancouver, Washington. And man, I just was always getting in trouble, bro. Always stealing, you know what I mean? Lying, cheating, you know, just anything. You know, I was into just basically finessing. You know, I just always finesse stuff. And so the first time I got in trouble, we were taking my homeboy's parents' car, and so we were like joyriding. So I caught a felony when I was like 13, you know what I mean? And then from there, it just went downhill. You know, I kept catching felonies for thefts, possession of firearms. I ended up doing like a year. Wow. I ended up doing like a year in prison for a firearm when I was 18. And then I got out. You know, I was selling crack, robbing people. I used to rob a lot of drug dealers, man. Weed dealers. I was really into robbing weed dealers, man. And you know, just doing stuff. I was just not a good person, man. Just lost. You know what I mean? Just lost in darkness, in total darkness. And then, so then in 2001, I had robbed these guys for a few pounds of marijuana. And see, this is how slick I thought I was. I thought you couldn't go to jail for robbing drug dealers. I'm like, man, you can't go to jail for this. You know, I figured it out. You know what I mean? But you can, man. You can't go to jail. And so I ended up bailing out, you know, because I did have money. You know, like I said, I was selling crack, hustling. But I did end up getting a bail in 2001. I bailed out, and then I just was running around going crazy, man. And finally they caught me. I jumped bail, and finally they caught me in 2004. And man, the charges were robbery, burglary. I was already on bail before I caught this charge, so I had a bail for. I had took this drug addict's car. I'm not going to call them crackheads, man, because you know that's not what's up, man. They're drug addicts. I took this drug addict's car and I never gave it back. You know what I mean? I rented it and just kept it. You know, that was the kind of stuff I was on. So I was already on bail for that. Then I caught this robbery charge after I robbed these dudes for like 3 pounds of weed. And I was on bail for that. And so I had robbery, burglary, possession with intent. They found a bunch of ecstasy when they raided my house. They found a bunch of crack. They found guns. Wow. I had guns and everything, you know. And so I went to trial, man. They were like, no deal, man. You can't take a deal. But, you know, I was crying out to God, man. I was in the county jail when they finally caught me. And you know, my family, you know, one of the places that we lived was a Catholic convent. And so I think they might have put that seed in me that there were. Nah, they didn't, bro, because ever since I was a little boy, I knew there was something up. up in the sky watching me, bro. I always knew there was a God, right? But I didn't know Jesus or anything. So I just was calling out to God, man, and I was fasting. I would fast for, I don't know what told me to fast, bro, but I would just fast. Like, I'd be in the county not eating for days. You know what I mean? Like, God, please get me out of this. And I remember being on my bunk and praying. They call it like I think they call it a foxhole prayer, or foxhole prayer or something. When when you're in the foxhole and it's all bad, it's like, God, if you get me out of this, And I
there's no atheist in the foxhole.
yeah,
I think is that's
yeah,
what they
there you
say.
go. You know what I mean? And so I prayed the foxhole prayer. I'm like, God, look, if you get me out of this, because I'm getting ready to do 28 years, no deal, 15 years for the gun charges, and then another 13 years for the robberies and stuff. I said, man, if you get me out of this, man, I'll be a good father, I'll be a good husband, and I'll be a good son. That was my prayer, man. And I went to trial and lost with the public defender. And man, the jury came back not guilty on a bunch of the stuff, man. And God spared my life, man. And so I did end up doing 8 years and 9 months, but he busted all that time off my back, man. And so when I get from there, that was in 2004 when I went up. I went to Walla Walla, man, and I just kept my Bible with me, man. Not like I'm scared, but like, man, this is what I chose, man. I'm gonna stand on this. You know what I mean? I'm standing on this. And, so I walked my time off. I was on the big yard in Walla Walla, went over to Stafford Creek. These are all penitentiaries in Washington. And, man, I got shipped out. I had my family, man. My girl was coming to see me all the time, bringing my kids. And she would bring them in the visiting room. And I remember I was trying to teach them a Bible story. And I was like, man, I'm looking at my son and he's looking at me, and I'm showing him one of Jesus's miracles or something. And he's looking at me like, is this true? And I'm like, man, I had to close the Bible. I said, man, I don't even believe this. Why am I teaching this to my son? You know what I mean? Like, and so then I got shipped out to Minnesota. And so, the foundation that I had was my girl and my kids. That was my foundation. And God shipped me out to Minnesota. And, I was a Catholic. I was like, man, I'm a Catholic, but I wasn't saved. I didn't have salvation yet. And so I just remember I was reading all my concordances and all my lexicons, and I just remember asking God, like, who's Jesus? And then he hit me, man. He was like, I am. And when he said that, bro, I was like, I got to get baptized. I got to get saved, because it opened up for me, man. And I believe that's in John 8:28. You know what I mean? And
it was like the scales. It was like the scales with Saul. They just dropped.
Bro, I knew who he was. I was like, I got to get baptized. And then I received the Holy Spirit, man. And from then on, I just been rocking with him, bro, rocking tough with him. And that was in 2000. That was at the end of 2007. You know what I mean? And so, man, now I'm saved, and I ain't fell off, bro, since 2007, man. There's been, nobody's perfect. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't, bro. That's my foundation, is Jesus Christ, man. And he put my whole family back together, man. I'm married now. My wife and I have been married 7 years. I got out in 2013, and my kids are around me. Every time I sit down and eat with them, I think about that Psalm 112, man. The kids are around me, and just watching them grow up, man. So it's just been a real blessing, man.
Wow. And when did you become a pastor?
Oh, well, that's a good question too. So we started ministering in 2008 at Stafford Creek. I met this dude, man, and it was funny because I'm about 6'3", you know what I mean? 6'3", a couple 100 pounds, so people kind of leave me alone. I do my pull-ups and stuff, And I remember this dude came up to me and he was like, you know what you're here for. When I came back from Minnesota, and that's a whole nother story. I was supposed to be in Minnesota for like 2 years. And God brought me back in 6 months. You know what I mean? And it was like I got to be back with my family after it was like he just took me out there to give me a new foundation. So I come back to Stafford Creek, and everybody's like, what? You're not supposed to be back. And this dude came up to me, man, and he's like, hey, he's like, you know what you're here for? And I'm looking at him like, yeah, I'm here to do my pull-ups and dips and lift my weights and go home, go to the visiting room, I read my Bible, I'm just doing my time. But he ended up having a Bible study that he taught Monday through Friday. And when he would speak the word, bro, I was just because I would go to church on Sunday, and you'd have to hear him, you know what I mean? And he was a co-pastor, co-preacher, and he was an inmate. And so, I remember I was just like, man, I wanted to be able to speak the word like that, you know what I mean? Because I couldn't, for all my reading, all my intellectual, I read Matthew Henry commentaries, the works of Josephus, all this stuff, and it's like, but the word wasn't sticking. But when I submitted myself to the order of God's church, then I started to receive the anointing. Then it started to smear off on me. And then I got moved out of there. So when I got moved out of there in 2009, I went to a camp to do my last 4 years at a camp. And I started pastoring there because these guys were doing the church. And, you know, a lot of the time in jail, you'll get a lot of like, you know, I don't like to really use this term, but you'll get like a lot of weirdos in church trying to hide. You know what I mean? And so you get a stand-up guy. I'm considered a solid dude because my jacket is solid or whatever. But it's like, so you see me going to church, you're like, man, why is this dude going to church? You know what I mean? But God had broken all that time off my back. I had to go, you know what I mean? And so I was in there and they just gave me the keys. I mean, they were like, here, you run all these services. And so I started Bible study, started pastoring men in there. I did that for like 3 years, got out in 2013. And then things kind of slowed down a little bit as I put my house together, was dealing with some issues with my sons. And then recently, so I've been pastoring again, probably for like the last 2 years now with this church, Early Church Ministries, man. And my pastor got out before me, you know, he's so blessed, man. And he ended up starting it. And man, I've just been walking in it, man. So it's been a few years, man, since I've been doing this.
Wow. That's crazy. And what does the average person, I say, would need to know about people who actually come out of jail? Because I know a lot of times, you know, you have the people that are locked up and they're like, oh, put them away. But then eventually some people or a lot of people get out of jail, and a lot of times they're changed, but they come out and they're just like, now what? Like, what do I do? So what can the average person do, you know, to help people who have tried to change their lives around, but now they're out and it's just like they have nowhere to go?
Yeah, that's tough, man. You know, and really, it's on the individual. You know what I mean? It's really on the individual because, like you get a lot of guys that play games and try to do programs and stuff, and want to play little, you know, con games and finesse, and it's like it's really on the individual, man. It's like I'm nobody special, bro. You know, I barely have a high school diploma. You know what I mean? But I always have leaned on the Lord. You know, and I've always trusted in God. He's really Jehovah Jireh, my provider. He's provided every step of the way, from the time I was in work release, getting me a job, to the time I was, you know, till I got hired onto this big corporation, you know, and I ended up moving up through the corporation, and now I make a great living, you know what I mean? And so it's like, you know, for the person that has family coming out, you know, you got to help them be normal, as far as like, if you want to help them look, you know, because when you go get a job, you got to get a job first. For the guy that's getting out, you got to go get a job. Okay, that's the bottom line. If the Bible says if a man doesn't work, he shouldn't eat. You know what I'm saying? And so if you got family members or someone coming out, they got to get to work. Bottom line, shave it up. I was telling my son the other day, because he got a new job. I was like, bro, you should shave all your beard and stuff. I said, I've been in my business for a long time, so they don't care. I'm professional. They know me. But when I first started, I shaved it all off. I'm clean cut and I'm there. And I know it sounds crazy and people are going to say this and that, but it's just one more of those things where you already got the felony. You don't want to have nothing else, man. Go in there looking professional. Make sure your appearance is very professional, you know, and get to work, man. You know, go get a job, you know, and that's really what I would say, man. Get to work, man. Start working, you know, and, you know, get your resume tight. And sometimes you start at the bottom, but if you're going to work, you know, so if for family members, if you got someone coming out, that's how you could help them get a ride to work, help them look for a job. You know what I'm saying? But if they're not trying to do none of that, they're trying to get out and start kicking it and doing all that, then man, I wouldn't waste my time with that junk. I'm keeping it real, man. I wouldn't waste my time with it, bro.
No, I feel that. Yeah. I know a few people who have gotten out. When you DM me, you had said 27 years. Yeah. Which was a number that stuck out for me because I'm currently working on a story, on a documentary with a guy who actually did 27 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit.
Oh, yeah.
So I could just imagine, you know, it's hard. And how he told me too, he says, you know, it's hard enough to be in jail for something you did.
Yeah.
But imagine being in there for that many years for something that you didn't do.
Right.
And then getting out and still never having that lifted, you know, off of your record, you know, just having that on your conscious, like on your back for the rest of your life as a convicted felon in an undeserved fashion. So anytime so that number, when you said 27, I was like, oh my God, it was 27 too. I was like, this, I was real curious about the story. So my final question to you is, this year obviously has been terrible. So what are your hopes and dreams for the future in entering 2021 and beyond?
Man, honestly, man, and it's the same as it always been. I was telling my buddy this, man, because we get so caught up in these politics, man. And God told me specifically, man, the Spirit was like, man, don't get involved in that, because that's not what we're here for, bro. We forget that we're here as strangers, as pilgrims, you know what I'm saying? That we're here as aliens, you know what I'm saying? What we're here to do is get people into the kingdom. And I used to, when I was a young Christian, I would be like, man, they're not trying to do nothing and just go the other way. But we got to remember that God leaves the 99 to go look for that one. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, my hope and desire is that we would just get back to the things of God. You know what I mean? That we wouldn't be bickering and arguing and all that, you know what I'm saying? But that we would really be on one accord. And I've met a lot of rappers, you know what I mean? And it's like, they're so, sometimes not all of them, but a lot of them are so like almost jaded because of the fans. And I'm a fan, you know what I mean? And so it's like we can be so wishy-washy, you know what I mean? Myself included, like I believe it says in Timothy that, the talks about the ship being tossed to and fro, you know what I'm saying? And the double-minded man. And sometimes we can get like that, and these brothers that are our leaders like Lecrae, Bizzle, these guys are trying to lead, and God has given them something, to bless us and to feed us. We gotta get back on the, man, we're here to get people saved, man. So that's really what my heart and desire is, man, is that we would return to that, bro, to that first love. It's like, man, let's get people into the kingdom, man, because we see what direction the world is going. We know how the story ends, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I'm not caught up in who's in the office, because I know who wins at the end of the day, you know what I mean? And so now I got to get my neighbors saved, my coworkers saved, you know what I'm saying? Or at least give them the good news, you know what I'm saying? Because there are kids that are coming up that don't know the gospel. They don't know the good news, you know what I'm saying? They don't know that Jesus died for their sins, and rose again. And so the God that we serve, bro, don't change, man. And so that's why I want to big you up, man, because I see the stuff that you're doing with Zay, man, and he has a very powerful voice. I was rocking that Broken Nightmares earlier, and I got a couple songs with him too, that I've been just sitting on, you know what I mean? And it's like, man, that's the kind of stuff that we need, bro. And that's why we got to support each other, man. And I'm talking about that. No, let me rephrase. That's why, like, the fans and like the upcoming guys, we got to support Rapzilla, man, because that might be the only platform that some of these unsaved kids, see, you know what I mean? And so, man, I just want to big you up, and I appreciate it, man. I really do appreciate you letting me share my testimony tonight, Justin. Seriously, man, it was a pleasure to meet you too, bro. You're a good brother, man.
Yes, likewise, man. I appreciate all the good things you said. I mean, I'm not out there doing the work like you guys are doing, like some of the artists are doing, but I feel like the way that I can give back and contribute is to bring you guys to this platform to have these conversations.
Amen.
And that was the whole point of this show.
Yeah.
How can we use Rapzilla? How could I use my gift is just having conversations with people. Some people don't have that gift. For me, this is like, hey, this is something I'm good at. I don't rap, I'm not out doing ministry. I'm not pastoring, but I can have conversations with people, and I like finding people who have great things to say and could impact people.
Hey,
so having someone like yourself.
One more thing, bro. That was dope what you did with them brothers from Africa too, man. I seen that, bro. That was dope, man. That was dope.
Yeah, and shout out to Alushola, our Rapzilla writer. He's in Nigeria. He lives there now. He's literally like our man on the street. So he helped. He was like, hey, let's get Limo Blaze. Let's really talk about this. And we put it together. So yeah, that was crazy, because a lot of people, this is Community During Chaos, right? So there are other communities. This isn't just a U.S. centric thing. Right. Everybody lives in a community, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
So right now, the Nigerian community, regardless of where they are, whether in Nigeria or somewhere else all over the world, their people are going through it, right? Man. So that's their community. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So so yeah, that's pretty much the goal of the show. I hope to do more things like that, like maybe target specific, maybe other areas of the world or other places.
Yeah, like South America or something like that. Yeah, that'd be dope.
Yeah, like most of this year has been, COVID or social unrest. That's been our main talking points, because that's the hot button thing that's happening. But that's a U.S. problem. I mean, COVID's a global problem, but social unrest and stuff maybe is just here. There's stuff going on in other places. So eventually, however long this show goes, I guess I'll have to get to everybody. So
you can do it, bro. Hey,
we'll do a lot of talking.
You can do it, man.
A lot of Mondays, man.
Yeah.
All right, man. But I appreciate you so much. Thanks for sharing that testimony, and I appreciate you. I hope everybody, was blessed by this testimony. And I'll catch you later, man. Don't be a stranger.
Man. Peace, man. Yep, you got it, man. Right, have a good night, man. Peace.
You too. Now we are going live with Monster Tarver. What's up, man? Wait, hold on. I got something for you. I know.
Yo.
I know you. The other day, you dropped a control verse, and you were coming for the belt. So you gotta come get it.
You gotta come get the belt for sure. Yeah.
All right, man. What's up? I know I hit you up months ago to talk to you, and I totally dropped the ball on that. And but I got you now, and we'll do something more too, because I definitely want to get your whole story for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
But how you doing, man? What's going on? You look relaxed.
I am relaxed, man. I'm blessed. I'm happy. God is working, man. I'm happy to be here, man. Rapzilla, man, this is an honor. I appreciate it, man.
Dope, man. And all right, so you're going to get the same question that everyone's been getting.
For sure.
2020, what is this madness of a year between COVID, social unrest? You got elections going on. You got people that are scared. You got sickness, everything that's going on. What has this been like for you?
I mean, I don't know what else to do but keep it real. It's been tough, man. I spent a majority of this year sleeping in the car.
Wow.
And I had 2 really good jobs and lost them both as a result of the whole COVID thing. And God's been moving, God's been working, God has been providing. And it's funny because God has convicted me on pride. And I'm not saying that I'm a super prideful person, but more so pride of being embarrassed to share more truth than I'm comfortable with. And, being able to admit that, like I had financial struggles, and people thinking because I was with WWE, before, that I'm supposed to be rich now. And that's not the case. There's a lot of money that I was supposed to get from them that I never got. But, regardless, God is my provider and not Vince McMahon. But either way, it's been crazy. It's been real. It's been tough, but God has been providing, man. God has got me through. And look where we are now. Rapzilla.
Man, I wish I was giving you money though for this appearance. Then
no, this is better than money.
then you really would have been provided. But see, look where I'm at now, Rapzilla. Now I get a paid interview.
Hey, this is better than money, but I appreciate it. Sure.
You're an athlete. You've been an athlete for a very long time. So I'm going to change this sentiment to relate to you.
Sure.
When somebody says to you, just shut up and wrestle, you're not allowed to have this voice. You're not allowed to have a platform or speak about anything. What does that mean to you, and what does that feel like?
Well, I have been told that before. I actually
shut up and wrestle.
I've been told much worse than that, but I have been told that before. So what I experienced when I was at WWE, I did experience a lot of racism. I experienced a lot of politics. I experienced a lot of sexism, nepotism, things like that. That's just part of the professional wrestling business. The business in itself as a whole isn't completely ugly, but a lot of it is ugly. And to be honest with you, the way I see that, I have had to learn not to be so sensitive about the color of my skin and, the community that I represent, the group of people I represent. you know, my nationality, my heritage, my ethnicity. I had to learn to not be so sensitive about that and not be so quick to offense. Because if I am so quick to get offended because of someone's perspective of the color of my skin, then I can't see my way to a solution to help them see their way to a solution. Then it just remains an argument forever. We'll argue forever. There's you know, so we can never reach a common ground. But you know, like, you know, the brother said before, you know, God calls us to be set apart. So my heart has to be full of compassion, and I got to know how to, you know, turn the other cheek, you know, within reason, but still be able to take a little bit of abuse, but be able to teach and understand, like, hey, you know, that's not right, but let me explain to you why. Really, really quick. I mean, not really quick story, but a good friend of mine, I met him in India. Good brother of mine, I'm not gonna say his name, but he's from Canada, extremely conservative and atheist. And we ended up in a car ride for 2 hours. And at the end of the car, I was fasting, and I had mentioned something about fasting. So he obviously realized what that meant, and, you know, began the typical atheist perspective. And we ended up at the end of that car ride hugging and becoming best friends. And we have two completely different sets of perspectives on life and on the world. And every time we saw each other, and I went to India 6 times in the past 4 years, and I would see him every time we'd hug, and we were good friends every single time. You know, I'm a Christian and a black man from the U.S. He's a, you know, conservative white man from Canada. And, you know, I'm not saying that I'm not conservative. What I'm saying is that we still have completely different points of view. Right. And we're able to, you know, hug and just see past our perspectives that are different from each other and just be brothers in the name of, you know, the field that we're in, wrestling. And to me, it's so much more powerful to be able to open your mind to more perspectives than just your own, and not try to force other people to see things the way you see them, but see things how they see them. And, you know, maybe if we try to understand each other, there wouldn't be as much civil unrest, and there wouldn't be, you know, and obviously we turn to God first, but, you know.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And just, I feel like you've seen a lot of, despite all the craziness of this year where you see all that division, I think more so than ever, you've also seen unity more so than ever, because you've seen a lot of people say, hey, you know, this isn't right. Or, you know, maybe I don't necessarily agree, but I can empathize. Whereas before it was just kind of like, you know, whatever. Right. And there's still a lot of people that way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So this idea of unity and kind of brotherhood is something I would imagine runs through, you know, behind the scenes for wrestling and a lot of the things that you're doing. Very close knit groups of people.
Yeah.
But I know on one hand, and you kind of alluded to it, there's a certain type of look or wrestler that is always getting pushed ahead you know, of someone else. So what's it like to have those conversations with people? Well, we're brothers, but maybe you're not getting any opportunities because of the color of your skin.
Well, I've had a lot of those kinds of conversations. It's tough when you're in that position, because you know you can't really speak up, you can't really say anything about it because it's taboo. You can't do that. But I got a lot of good guidance and good advice from a lot of legends, and, you know, in particular, Dusty Rhodes, who, you know, I love him to death. Rest in peace, Dusty Rhodes. He was my mentor when I was at Florida Championship Wrestling, and I worked hand in hand with him, and, you know, he taught me so much. And he would just keep it real with me, you know, and he would just say, you know, you're not going to get as many opportunities, you know, because the black guys just don't. It just is what it is. But you would be a fool to let that stop you. And, you know, he'd always tell me, like, you are as talented as anyone here. Like, don't let that stop you. No matter what happens, keep going. And I did the best that I could. You know, I tried to do him justice. I felt like I didn't get a chance to. But, you know, I would like to think that, you know, he's at least proud of my resilience. But they're tough conversations. But I think what I had to understand is humility is the best currency. And when you understand, everyone's the buzzwords like equality and so forth and so on, it's a myth because we're humans, we're imperfect. It just is what it is. Humanity is imperfect. Outside of Christ himself, humanity is imperfect. Equality is unachievable, but understanding is achievable. And if we learn to understand each other and we stop chasing, I don't know, just goals that are not realistic, and in the name of self-worship or pride or things like that, or identity politics, and we just try to understand each other, then there wouldn't be a need for identity politics. And I'm not saying I have a problem with it, but it's if we're also concerned with being mad at each other because this person has a different perspective or voted for somebody different, or grouping everyone who votes for this person in the same category just because, or and then you get the cognitive dissonance of it, where the moment you say you voted for this person, well, that person's a racist. Or this person said, you don't vote for me, you ain't black, but that's not racist. Or, and I'm not defending or coming against either one of them, but it's why does things like race have to be such a bullet point to try to target certain groups, or when the truth is the truth, and as it relates to wrestling, there's a brotherhood, and you're taught to respect and protect the locker room. But yeah, there are things that go on that you can't talk about. There's a lot of things I've seen that I can't talk about. That I have to be, that I don't agree with, things that happen to me that I can't talk about. That I won't talk about. But there are some things that I have talked about. It's just it's part of it. It teaches you humility. It makes you learn to be happy with and content with who you are as a person, and whatever happens, happens, and be thankful for the opportunity.
So you mentioned before that you had lost 2 jobs this year. Were those wrestling related jobs, or was that something
No,
else?
no. They were real jobs. So I was, by trade, I work in youth development or juvenile justice, foster care, but I work with youth. And I guess I kind of learned to consider that my ministry, so to speak. I've always been really good with working with youth, and I've done that for about 20 years. In all facets, foster care, all of that. And then the other opportunity I had, I was an on-air guest for Home Shopping Network. And so as I, learned, the opportunities, they temporarily went away. And so, hopefully as the NFL season comes back, I'll be able to continue to work. Obviously things will be different, but those are things that I held very dear. And as a result of the situation, they went bye-bye. So things got really tough.
Well, man, working with youth and juveniles as a whole community during chaos situation of itself. So
yes, it is.
What was it like working with them? And you actually have a platform. Like, I'm sure people recognize you when you do that. So what is that like when you get to speak life into younger people?
It's tough. It's very, very tough, because the older they get, really more in like the middle school age, they're so brainwashed by social media. They're brainwashed by the media. I love this generation, but they're so lazy. They don't want to do research, but they're learning it from their parents, which is, my age group. And they're not doing research, and they're not studying the things that they're saying, the statements, the definitive statements that they're spitting out of their mouths. They're not actually researching how true those things actually are. And, you can't tell them the sky isn't blue because their favorite singer or mumble rapper said the sky is orange. So, they refuse to accept the sky is blue. And if you say the sky is blue, you're a sexist or a racist or this or that. I'm like, no, just look up, the sky is blue. And, these kids, they won't try to learn. They won't, I don't know. They won't extend themselves outside of entertainment and their personal sense of entertainment. And it's tough, but having a heart for them, and and wanting to speak life into them and teach them and guide them, because that's they're the future, and think about where the world is going to be, if our boys and girls are confused on who and what they are, and we're not teaching them to be young men and young women and respect themselves and respect each other.
Absolutely. And I saw on your Instagram, you have kids yourself.
I do.
They're a bit older,
Yes.
but what were conversations with them like this year with everything that's going on?
Well, I try to keep my struggles a little bit private. I'm very close with my kids. There are some things that they do know about, but I don't want them to ever worry about me. And then they know that I've been through some things, but they're very happy. My son in particular, my son Ty, he produces as well, and he was actually on the mixtape I just released. And him and I are very close. He was extremely excited about this. He said he freaked out when I told him I was doing a live at Rapzilla. He was like, "What?" But yeah, they're very close. They're believers, and I thank God for that. And I mean, I'm so happy that they're good-hearted people. They're good children. Their mother has done a very good job. And she's worked very hard. And I couldn't be prouder of my children.
Awesome. One thing I think that's interesting is, had you been in keeping on this platform as a wrestler, you may have never had a chance to really express your faith on it. Like you had somebody like, I know AJ Styles is a Christian. I've interviewed him, and Titus O'Neil is a Christian, but like their faith isn't really elevated through WWE or wherever they're wrestling at. That's like a behind the scenes thing. But because you are not there, you were able to create a whole nother platform to express your faith. And because you had that run on WWE, you had a bit of a platform to carry into it.
I have a crazy story on how this connects too.
So that's like a blessing and a curse. Not even necessarily a curse, but not being with the WWE afforded you this other opportunity.
Yeah.
Go ahead. If you want to, if you can hit that story.
No. Yeah. So I grew up a believer, grew up a Christian my whole life. My mother was a minister, grew up in church my entire life. I knew God, but didn't know God. And I mean, that's basically the long and the short of it as far as my upbringing. But in 2009, I started going to Crossover Church in Tampa, Florida, and I met Urban D, Pastor Tommy Kalanian. Okay. And him and I became really cool really fast. And he started kind of educating me about Christian hip hop. And I don't know, I just got to a point in 2009, I had a spiritual awakening, and it was a pretty crazy situation. Pretty like a serious spiritual battle, a spiritual warfare, and ended up almost kind of going crazy late 2009, right before I debuted in 2010, which led me to Crossover Church. And so I started seeking out Christian hip hop music. I don't know, just my spirit got to a point where it just couldn't really take the language and the content anymore, secular music. And I never forget, my ex, she was listening to Dietrich Haddon a lot, and I wasn't familiar with his music. So I ended up buying one of his CDs at the time, and he had a song called I'm Alive. And I was in the airport in Tampa, Florida, had just flown back, surrounded by fans, because they always knew exactly where we were flying to. And every, baggage claim area, you're signing autographs, taking pictures with dozens of people. While I'm playing I'm Alive in my headphones. And all of a sudden, I just became overcome with emotion and started crying just in the middle of the airport. I don't know what it was. I just literally just was like in tears. And my ex picked me up, and I sat in the car, and she was like, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I don't know. But that song just resonated with me." I had a serious battle with depression for a very long time. So like hearing those two words, I'm alive, and from that point on, I started really, really, really seeking out like Christian hip hop. And I just told myself, I want to listen to music that sounds like what I'm listening to, but it's safe to listen to. And I found Dwayne Triumph, his album 777, I think it's called, Mark of the Beast. And I found Redemption Pro, or Derek Minor when he was pro. Yeah. And those are the first two Christian hip hop albums that in like 2009 I started really listening to. Then from there I discovered, a friend of mine was telling me about Bump Synth and Bizzle and Pastor 83, and I started listening to them pretty tough. And then I got an R Swift CD. Obviously, Urban D, he was, I was listening to his music. I was jamming out with him. And then from there on, like Thi'sl, Jay, I was a big fan of Jay. She's a singer and a Christian singer. Man, the list just goes on. But and then the first Lecrae album I think I found was Rehab. And I found Rehab, and I was like, what is this? I had never heard of Lecrae before. I was like, what is this? Bro, and then from there, I just went and downloaded all his whole catalog. Like, what
You hit the rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah. And from there, man, I learned, and I just switched all of my music to Christian hip hop, and that's how I learned how to be a Christian rapper, was listening to these guys and listening to how they ministered in the music. And I'm like, wow, I can rap about God and still have bars? Like, what? But yeah, that crazy connection there, though.
Yeah, that is wild.
Yeah.
I'm actually supposed to be getting on with Thi'sl now, but I don't even see him in here. So we'll stay with you till Thi'sl gets here. Gotcha. Thi'sl, if you're in here, drop a comment. But I don't see you. So we'll keep it going because this is great. Anyway, I want to say I had this thought when I was looking up pictures of you today. Getting ready, like doing my research or whatever. You were on this whole mask game first before everyone else. When you came into the WWE, you were the only one.
Yeah.
You were the only one covered up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, now everybody's wearing them.
You foresaw what was coming. You would be the only guy on the Nexus right now that doesn't have COVID.
Right. Yeah, well, I guess so.
So let me ask you this. So do you ever feel like, because you are, someone who takes care of your body, obviously you're in good shape, you're in good fitness. Do you think that you're better than most, I would imagine. Do you think that it's helpful during times like this when there's a lot of depression, a lot of isolation and
oh man,
people are upset? Like, how much does actually having the physical part of you right while the mental part is maybe struggling?
I'll tell you what, during this quarantine, I went through a terrible depression. I really did. And I know I wasn't the only person in the world that did. And I'm a competitive power lifter, and I, train 5 times a week. And before the quarantine hit, I was training twice a day, 5 days a week. And then when the quarantine hit, I was training once a week, and that depressed me. But I continued to train. But, I started going out and just walking, jump rope, and just being in the sun, just walking around, looking at the water and just absorbing, the earth, man, and just the vitamin D and it made me feel better. Like, just dreaming, just looking at different places, thinking I'd like to live there, or I'd like to do this, and just reminding myself of the things that I wanted to do in my life. And then what that did was it helped me, along with some very good advice, it helped me to open myself up to ideas on how to get through this whole quarantine thing, and how to be creative with my gifts and my art. But as far as the physical aspect of it, yeah, the exercise definitely helps building. We all have an immune system, building an immune system and helping yourself to help yourself. God created our bodies. Our bodies are full of germs, but God created our bodies to fight off germs. Our bodies are so wonderfully and uniquely made. Again, when people are doing research, people don't realize our bodies have been exposed to many types of coronaviruses. There are types of coronaviruses.
Yeah, coronavirus isn't new.
It's not
COVID,
new.
COVID-19 is what's new.
Yes, there's SARS, flu. There are different types, and we've been exposed to them. People don't do research, and but again, if your body, even emotional responses can have physical responses, fear, depression, breathing in CO2 with masks, breathing your own CO2, things like that. I believe that there's a time and place for those things, but I also believe that we got to get out and be healthy, man. We got to find ways to make ourselves happy and chase joy, not necessarily happiness, but joy, because joy is everlasting. Happiness is fleeting, and be healthy, man. Just spend time with people you love, do things you like to do, make yourself feel good. And this is, it's, I don't know, it's not easy, but it's simple.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's simple. Well said. So when was the last time you actually got in the ring for a match?
A year ago in South Africa, this week, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'll actually be, ironically enough, I'm going to be wrestling in Texas this weekend.
This weekend?
Yeah, it's my first wrestling match in a year. So that's going to be weird. And I'm wrestling an MMA fighter. So that's going to be pretty interesting. But
yeah. So what do you know? What's that's going to be like? Like, what's the protocol? Like, did you have to quarantine before getting in? Like,
no, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to obviously have to fly and wear a mask and, get my temperature checked. But like where I work, we get tested every 2 weeks. So I've been tested so many times and never had a negative test or never had a positive test. And if I would have had, and I've known people who have, so, I'm not scoffing at the virus. I have my perspectives on the pandemic, but, I know the virus is a real thing, so, but again, I've been tested so many times and I say it, peacefully, not arrogantly, that I have, I've been exposed with clients that I've worked with. They've tested positive, never had symptoms, but tested positive, but I had to go to work and take care of them. Took care of them, got tested, went through the whole rigmarole, never had a positive test, kept myself healthy. I had a client that had to go to the hospital a couple weeks ago and he ended up having pneumonia, but the entire time we were there at the hospital, the nurses kept peeking at the door saying, you have COVID and your client has COVID. And I was like, no, we don't have COVID. They're like, no, you have COVID. No, we don't have COVID. And the nurse literally told me to my face, if you walk in the hospital, we're counting you as positive for COVID, even if you test negative. I was told that to my face. And then, of course, we both get tested in the hospital and both come back negative, and that he has negative for COVID, but obviously discovered that he had pneumonia. So, it's mental and spiritual as much as it is physical. Yeah,
I was wondering what it's like. I know baseball players were getting tested like every other day. And I was wondering like what pro athletes and pro wrestlers are probably the most, I would guess, at risk because they're literally touching each other. You guys are sweating and spitting and, doing everything. You're in each other's faces.
Yeah, but I mean,
I guess your immune systems are built up from years of doing that anyway.
Well, everyone has an immune system. Some people, unfortunately, is weaker than others because of, pre-existing conditions and things like that. But, to me, worrying is the worst thing. It's a sin to worry. I said, don't worry.
Yeah.
Worrying is something it's not helpful. You go out, you live your life, you get sick, you recover, you get through it, and you fall 7 times, get back up 8.
All right. I feel that, man. All right, man. Well, I'm going to let you go.
All right.
I want to do this again sometime and we'll really dig deep into your story.
You got it. You got it.
And I'm looking forward to that, man. I appreciate you and your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man. God bless you.
Yeah, man. Keep spitting because now people are starting to notice.
Oh man,
you got some big people started to notice.
Hey man, tell them that control verse. I ain't done with them yet, man. It's all love. It's all love and respect. It's all love.
Oh wait, I was supposed to make you do a shoot. You're supposed to do a promo before you get out of here. I can't let you off the hook. You got to do it.
I got to do a promo.
Okay. Get ready for this weekend. This is your practice.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Man, I guess, I don't know. I would say, I don't know. I guess the verse was definitely a promo. And, to all of the names I mentioned, I love you, I respect you, but I want a seat at the table too.
He's coming. He's coming. He's coming.
Yeah, indeed. The champ is here. I'm coming. All love and respect, but I'm coming.
All right, man. Thanks for indulging my stupidness.
Man. Much love to you, brother. Man. Thank you.
Yes, likewise, man. Take it easy.
All right.
All right, peace. We're about to go live with Thi'sl. We were supposed to speak to him on Monday for Community During Chaos, but he was not able to join us. So this is part 2, continued. This is the first time we're doing this, a continued one.
What's up, buddy?
What's up, man? I was getting worried again. I was like, dang, where is this guy?
Nah, man, I wasn't gonna do you. Nah, we good. Hey, hey, the funny thing is though, I honestly think today was a better day because of the other stuff that transpired through the week. You know, I think today was it happened by mishap, but I think we good though. You know.
Yeah,
we good.
yeah. Man, since Monday, a lot has been going on just in this country. That you could flip a whole different story about everything that's going on. But yeah, man. So I'll give you the same question I give everybody. What has your 2020 been like? How have you been able to navigate through it from COVID to civil unrest? Now we got this election going on. You know, what's been running through your mind, and how have you been able to get through it?
Man, well, so I'll start with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So the crazy thing is for me, like I always believe, man, God always he gonna make sure his people okay. He gonna get his people together, you know.
Right.
And for me, with COVID, before COVID happened, I was already telling my immediate circle of people around me, my exact words were, man, I'm gonna be in the house for the next 2-3 months as much as I can. I was like, I ain't even coming outside. So when COVID happened in the lockdown, I was like, hey, this was already my plan.
I'm good to go.
It was crazy because I was straight prepared for it. So my friends and my people, I'm telling me that, like, bro, that's crazy. You've been saying this for, 2 months. And so when COVID happened, it pretty much gave me a time to just reset. I needed some time to reset, sit back, plan out, focus, get some things worked out in my life. So COVID, it didn't affect me in the aspect of having to stay in the house. It affected me in the aspect of having to like being sympathetic and having empathy for people that I knew it was going to affect in a different way for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like people were losing their homes, people were losing their jobs, people, mentally just going through so much anxiety and different things. So my heart was going out to them, but at the same time, I was in a space that I needed. And when I began in the pandemic, when the pandemic first happened, my first thought was originally like, okay, turn up. You know what I'm saying? Like, turn up. Get like, what you gonna do? Do some more stuff. Work. But in those moments like that, God is like, no. Like, calm down, sit down. Like, let me communicate. Let me talk with you. So that was like an opportunity for me to sit back, chill, get some stuff done that I needed to get done, and focus on the Lord. On the flip side, the crazy thing about unrest, like, people think we make this stuff up, but the aspect of unrest isn't a new thing for us in the Black community. Like, the unrest part doesn't bother me as much because the unrest is a reaction to anger and hurt. So for me, I didn't want to see, like, there's a lot of stuff that I don't want to see. I don't want to see nobody be killed by the police. I don't care if you are Asian. Like, I don't want the police or anybody, like a random citizen, killing a person that has nothing to do with nothing. I don't care.
It shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I don't care if you were a baker. So when those situations happen, especially the one that happened in the midst of pandemic with George Floyd, when that situation happened, it was a hard thing to watch, not just because it was a Black man and a police officer, but for the simple fact that as a country, we literally sat back and watched a man sit on a person's chest until he didn't breathe no more. And every one of us had this idea in our brain that no consequences are going to be handed down because he's a police officer, So that was a hard part of it. But the idea of unrest and having to deal with racial tension is something that we've lived with our whole life. So that part doesn't even affect me in the same way that it probably would affect some other people.
Right. Now, for you, did you feel like more so than any other situation, there was a sense of unity and people coming together like never before? Like, was that a different feeling to you?
Yes, because I knew people personally that had never said white people. I knew white people, pastors, just acquaintances, people that from all walks of life that are white, Caucasian, European, whatever, you want to call it, Anglo-Saxon, whatever word makes you feel comfortable. I know people from that background that had never said anything about police brutality, had never said anything about it being unarmed black men being murdered. They even started to say stuff because it was so obvious for me. For me, the hard thing to watch about George Floyd was the fact that what I believe made it hard for everybody, especially men, right? Like when we young, we wrestle. You know what I'm saying? We wrestle around and we play with people, we play with each other. Like I've been in some situations outside of wrestling and all that, but I've been in some situations where I've wrestled and played with somebody or your partner, you like, I'm gonna put you to sleep, and you put them in a headlock. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you literally feel their body under your power, like going, oh man, like where they're losing consciousness. You're like, oh bro, wake up, I'm tripping, stop.
And that's like 30 seconds,
and that's
45 seconds.
So imagine me as a grown man with my knee in another man's chest, and I'm literally watching. We watched it. We don't have to imagine it. And you see him, and I still got my full body weight on him, full body weight, with my hands in my pocket, with a nonchalant look on my face, like, take me. Like I know, like a person couldn't tell me that he didn't know that man was dying. He didn't know that he was losing consciousness. And if I make you lose consciousness from being able to breathe, what's eventually gonna happen to you? You're gonna die. So that was the hard part. It was like, yo, at some point, people gotta just say what it is. Like, if I sit and put my knee in your chest until you die, that's murder. Like, I'm a grown man. I'm aware of what I'm doing. Like, and that was the hard part for it. And I think that was the part for a lot of people, that it was just frustrating. And it was the point of, I have to say something. I have to do something. I have to make my voice known, because what I just watched right here, I don't care if that man was about to OD off of a pound of cocaine. I don't care if he had just ran out of a bank and had robbed the bank and had $1 million on him. It doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, people are human beings. Like, people are human beings. And for us, especially for the Christians, the most disheartening part about Christians, for me, is that we choose to pick stuff like, oh, like the person saying right now, what about him being high on fentanyl? But when we go to countries like, we go to places like Haiti, and we go to other countries outside of America, and we go to those places, we don't go to the prostitute that's being sex trafficked and say, oh, what about her being high on cocaine? We're not worried about her being high on cocaine. All we're worried about is she's involved in an act where we feel like she's being degraded outside of the image that God has created her in. So when Christians pull stuff up like that and say, oh, well, what about them being high on fentanyl? Well, what about the prostitute being high on cocaine? What about the prostitute being high on crack? What about the prostitute being high on this? What about the people in these other countries that we go visit? What about all of the things that they do? But we look past what they've done, and we try to see the image of God on them. We try to see them in the light that we believe that Christ would see. And only when it comes to, I say this to people all the time. Like, when it comes to American Christians and predominantly, like people know I say what I'm gonna say, predominantly white evangelical Christians. When it comes to a lot of white evangelical Christians, when it comes to dealing with the police and the government, those are the only two places that the evangelical is going to treat the people that are involved in that as if they are outside of sin. Everybody else, we like, oh, no, let me call you good in front of somebody, man. You a good brother. People be fast to say, no man is good but the Father. But when it comes to police officers, and when it comes to the government, we try to put them in this space that, oh, because of what they do and who they are, God has given them this space that they don't sin. I can't believe that this man is a sinner like that. And that's a lie. Like, that's a lie. That's a lie. It's a lie.
Yeah, and the thing is, in this country, very, very few people get the death penalty too. So Being high is not a death penalty sentence. Being high outside, like you shouldn't get the death penalty for doing a petty crime. Like serial killers get killed and they still go through the whole process and they're in jail for like 20 years. So there's no reason a non-violent person should be getting killed in the middle of a street.
Man, listen to this. Check this out, right? Check this out. If we don't base what people do, and some people do this is why they don't share the gospel with people. This is why they don't have relationships outside of their circle. But if we're going to, right, base what people are doing or what they've done, first of all, if we base what people do and what they've done off, if they're worthy of being redeemed, I wouldn't even be a Christian right now. When I came to the Lord, I was going to see a pastor in my neighborhood. I was falsely accused of a murder. The homicide detectives were looking for me. When I went back to see him again, I was walking out of a jail cell, a free man. But when I went to see him, I told that man, like, the police are looking for me for murder. You know what he called the detectives and told them? I don't believe he did it. He said, I'm coming with him. He stuck with me. He walked with me. That man could have easily said, this is a young black boy from the hood. At that point, I looked like a street dude. This is a young black boy from the hood. He's probably a criminal. He's down the street where all these guys that sell drugs down the block from where my church is. And you know what? He's probably good for this. I'm not going to waste my time. What about when we go out into the streets, which most people don't? Most people don't even go out into the streets and evangelize, so they don't even know what that looks like anyway. But what about when we go out into the streets and we see a man out in the street that's high off crack or high off fentanyl? What we going to do? We going to walk past him? And we're going to say, oh, he high on fentanyl. I'm not even going to talk to him. That's the person that my heart should go out to. My heart should go. And this is the thing.
That's the person that needs it.
That's the person that needs it. And that's the thing that people don't even understand. With Jesus, like the people that think that they're being righteous and upholding Jesus' standard, Jesus wouldn't even rock with most of them. Like Jesus wouldn't even sit at the table with them. Jesus would get up from the table that they're at and go to a table with the people that are high on fentanyl. That's where Jesus would go. We can go to the scriptures and see that. When he went in the room with the Pharisees and they said, they were like, what are you doing sitting with the sinners? Jesus was with the prostitutes and the thieves and the crooks. Jesus was sitting with prostitutes. And they said, what are you doing with them, with the sinners? And Jesus said, I came for the sick. I didn't come for the well. You don't even know that you need a doctor. And that's the thing about most Christians. People have lived in a Christian bubble so long. They grew up in a Christian home. They have one parent or two parents, whatever it is. They've been sheltered from most of the world. Their knowledge has puffed up inside of them. They're so self-righteous that they can't even understand what it looks like to look at a person with pity and mercy and empathy. They don't even know what it looks like to look through the scriptures. They're a banging symbol. They have this knowledge and they have this behavior modification. So they look down on people that they see their sin living outside of them. But the reality is, Jesus told people like that, he said, you're a whitewashed tomb. You clean the outside of the cup, but the inside of your cup is dirty. He said, your mouth is like an open tomb. Most people don't even understand that the Jesus that they think they're protecting and holding up a standard for, he don't even rock with them. He wouldn't even sit at their table. That's the thing most people don't even get. So when you talk about a person, when you say, what about him being high on fentanyl? When we look at the system and we look at the world that is created in front of us, some people in this world, we give them a higher level of accountability than other people. We do it with our school teachers. We do it with pastors. We do it with the government. And it's a rightful thing that we are doing that. Because if you choose to be in a position that you are going to be responsible for the lives of other human beings, and you're going to be a person that is making sure that the rest of us are okay, you have to behave at a higher standard. To whom much is given, much is required. So if I'm giving you this trust, I'm giving you this position, I'm giving you this job, I'm giving you all of this access to everything that you need to complete your job. And I do believe that some people, some police officers may be undertrained. They may be under this. They may be under that. I'm a firm believer of that. But at the same time, you're still in a position that you're being held to a higher standard. The scripture even say that. Like the teachers are going to be held to a higher standard than the people in the pews, because to whom much is given, much is required. So I'm going to judge you at a higher level. If you are the police officer that is dealing with a person that's high on fentanyl, I'm going to judge you at a higher level than the person that's high on fentanyl. Because you are the person at that moment that is completely sane and in your right state of mind, and your job at the end of the day is to protect and serve me. Even when I'm in your custody. That's your job.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like that literally in any other job. It's like that. Like if you're a rapper and if you just had a regular person next to you and that regular person raps something really whack, well, okay, they're not a rapper. And if you rap something really whack, we'd be like, what is he doing?
What's wrong with
we hold you at a higher standard.
Yeah. What's wrong with him?
Yeah. Man, I think you skipped out on Monday to prepare a sermon because you came in here like
I'm going with the flow, man. I'm going with
you came in here with fire, man. You came in here with I'm just listening, smiling, and nodding. Man. Just let him go. Just let him go.
With the flow, man. That's it.
He killing it, man. So a lot of the younger dudes in CHH, everyone calls you the OG, an OG. Yeah. So how do you think this younger generation has done through all of this, just kind of observing and through conversations? Like, are you proud of the way, I guess, the younger guys are coming up being leaders? Do you think something needs to be done a little better?
I think they're doing a good job for the way that they've been equipped.
Okay.
I think a lot of them, and I'm explaining this part. So it's not a knock on them, because a lot of those guys, like I'm from a different culture.
Right.
So when dudes in CHH first started calling me OG and big homie, I didn't really like it at first. I'm just gonna be honest. Because for me, that was reserved for the little dudes in my neighborhood that have been to 10, 15 funerals with me, and they grew up around me outside. So it wasn't until I began to actually, and this was years ago, it wasn't until I began to actually look and say, nah, I am that for them too. And by the way, I was raised in the neighborhood, I've always been a person that reached out to young dudes. So the younger dudes call me OG and call me big homie because I reached out to them. Like I took Derek, I think I took Derek Mine on his first tour with me. I took Jay Monty on the tour with me. I took Tarver on the tour with me. And I took Jay Monty on the tour with me after me and him had an argument on Twitter. Like he snapped on me and went off because he thought I was communicating something that I wasn't communicating. And I'm like, nah. And instead of me like snapping back at him, I'm like, nah, I like dude. So I'm like, nah, bro, that ain't what I'm saying to you. And if you'd have asked me, I would have. And he like, dang, man, my bad. Me and him got close from that. So I called him. I called Top Razzle. I called Rockstar JT, Zonti. Yeah. I love Zonti. Like RG. It's a gang of them. I love them. Like them my little homies. So I appreciate the love that they show me. But the reason they show me that level of love is because I'm always reaching back for them. Because I want to make sure that they, have what they. I just had a phone call with Rockstar JT yesterday, and I apologize. Like, man, my bad. I've been doing so much. I mean to reach out to you more, and I want to connect with you more, and I want to talk to you more because I want them to know how to interact with this. Now, when I say I think they're doing the best job for the way that they've been equipped. I'm gonna tell you why I say that. One of the reasons is because most of them are in churches that will not equip them to deal with stuff like this. They're not going to equip them to deal with it. So what most of them are going to get from their church home is opposition. They're going to come at them. They're going to try to stop them from talking. They're going to try to stop them from saying stuff, right? I think another reason why most of them aren't equipped to do what, to fully do what they need to do in this moment is because, and I'm just going to be 100, like CHH isn't a culture that the older dudes cultivate the younger dudes. Like a lot of the older dudes, dang, this going to be hard. Man, I don't want people to think I'm capping on people. But a lot of people, a lot of artists, just because they're older, don't mean they know what to do.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the older artists don't even know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So the older artists can't teach the younger artists what to do because the older artists don't know what to do themselves. And I'm gonna tell you one of the most dangerous things that I've seen inside of CHH when it comes to speaking on racial reconciliation and other things that are pertaining to the community like that. I think people do it so much out of a trend space. Like, you don't see me jump on the internet, everybody that died, and be like, yo, R.I.P., he was a great man, his legacy. I don't do that. Because first of all, I don't even know him. And if I've never followed a person's life along my, like, I can still feel a certain level of compassion and be like, dang, man, that dude died. That's wild. But just because it's a trend that everybody's doing, that don't mean I have to hop on the internet and be like, man, R.I.P. to so-and-so, man. He was a good dude. You know, I don't know him. So a lot of times in the CHH space, artists run and do stuff in a trendy way. And when you do stuff in a trendy way, it comes off not authentic to everybody watching you.
Absolutely.
And when it comes off not authentic to everybody watching you, it makes people have something to say. And then when you don't know what you're doing and you jump in a space that you don't know, you start saying stuff that don't make sense. So when you start saying stuff that don't make sense, you don't know how to respond, and then you're going to start acting off of emotion. Guess what? People have a valid complaint against you to say, man, you just doing this because you think it's cool because you're black or because it is or because of that. And then they ask you questions and you can't answer the questions because it's not coming from a genuine place in your heart. I believe that artists should not even speak on stuff that's not their passion. If social justice isn't something that you feel passionate about, don't say nothing. Don't feel the pressure to be like, oh man, everybody's saying something, I gotta say something. Like, don't say a word. Like, you don't have to say nothing. Man, I haven't been on Facebook all day today. You know what people on Facebook doing? I ain't been on there, and I know. You know what they're doing? They arguing.
They're arguing.
They're arguing over the election. Artists are chiming in because they feel like they have to chime in. They're on there. Everybody's looking crazy with each other. And you know what I was doing? I was trying to figure out. I was doing one of my old head sayings that I had coined. I was trying to put me a play together that's gonna stay together, man. You know what I'm saying? I ain't arguing with y'all on Facebook over something that I know I don't have control over, and I'm not gonna say stuff about stuff just being 100. So the black people that follow me don't feel like artists being such a tricky spot, especially in CHH.
Yeah.
Because you're in a space that if you don't say something, some of the black people that follow you are gonna be like, "Oh, you're not using your platform. You're not using your platform. You ain't saying nothing. You should be speaking up. You should be talking. You should be saying something." So they get that opposition from the black followers. And then the white followers, they like, "Oh my gosh, I'm tired of hearing about this. Like, you guys need to just stick to Jesus." So now they in the middle. Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? But guess what? You lean and say, I gotta say something because I don't want them to think I'm betraying them. Now, I really do believe that this is a real issue, but I really don't want to say nothing. Guess what? Don't say nothing. If that's not your passion, don't say nothing. Don't talk about it. You know, you can still acknowledge situations that's happening. You can show empathy, but like, don't run. And then even when stuff is we need to stop trying to make everything trendy. Like, everything isn't a trend. You know what I'm saying? Everything not a trend. Like, tragedy isn't a trend.
Yes. Just conspiracies aren't a trend. Like, it's crazy.
Every artist do not need to make a song about social justice. Like, just because it's happening don't mean you got to talk about it. If that's not your lane and that's not what you do, see, this is the thing people know about me. Everything I do right now, I've been doing the whole time. I've been doing this. Like, this has always been me.
Right.
You know, so I don't try to fit into spots where people, I put a post up on Facebook yesterday. I put it on my Instagram too. And I said, being transferred from one plantation to another is not freedom. This is not a victory march. Because I see all people excited like, oh yeah, Biden finna win, he finna win. I'm like, no. Because if we're basing this off of what we're saying it is, and the system being corrupt and politics being corrupt, like, I'm not going to rejoice because I'm getting one corrupt person over another if that's what I believe. If I believe the whole system is corrupt, then I'm still sitting there like, dang, man, now I got to take him. You know what I'm saying?
You're just swapping one for another.
People. You're just swapping people.
It's just a different approach. It's a different approach.
Thing. And so artists need to stop making stuff be trendy. Like, if you don't want to talk about social justice, don't talk about it, because at the end of the day, it makes what you do seem watered down. I had a dude hit me up when I got shot. A dude hit me up and was like, yeah, a bunch of us are going to put a song together about what happened to you, and we're going to put it out as proceeds. I said, no, y'all. I'm in my head like, no, you're not. I didn't even respond to it. And you're
the one who got shot.
I'm the one who got shot.
That's your story to tell.
But I didn't lash out at him because I understood at that moment the culture that has been created. The culture that has been created, the young artists, they don't know what to do. So in their head, they say, I'm an artist, so I'm supposed to rap about it. You don't have to rap about everything as an artist. Like, you don't. If you listen to my music, as much as I communicate how I feel about things like this, when you listen to my music, every one of my songs is not me talking about social justice or issues that I feel. My songs talk about a holistic issue. Like, I can't just pinpoint this one issue out over and over and over again, because this one issue is an issue, but this one issue isn't the main issue neither. And that's a problem I have with people that try to spearhead the community to a place. If you're going to be a leader and you try to walk people to a certain place and you put yourself in a position to be a leader and to be a spokesperson and try to lead people, you got to give a balanced point of view. So at the end of the day, as much as I know police brutality is an issue in the Black community, it's been one before social media made it popular, and it's been sensationalized. My homeboy was shot by the police when I'm 13 years old. I had another friend that was shot and paralyzed by the police when I was like 19 years old. He was running away. He got shot in the back. He didn't have a gun or nothing. You know, so at this point, so that stuff has been happening. And it's not because men are police. Like, let's get that straight, though. Like, police aren't shooting unarmed Black men because they're police. Police are shooting unarmed Black men because they're sinners. And sinners sin act out through their lifestyle. So at that moment, everybody that gets shot by the police too, you don't see me making a fuss about everybody that gets shot by the police. If you get into a straight shootout with the police and you pull a pistol out of my partner that got shot by the police when I was 13, he was in a shootout with the police. Like, if you get shot by the police in the middle of a shootout, whether I feel like you were right or wrong, I'm not going to be doing no march for you, because at the end of the day, if you shoot at me, I'm going to shoot back at you as well. Like, that's a natural response. So everybody that the police shooting don't deserve a march or a rally or a rally point. And that's the thing that I don't like about when people take a leadership position and you go and try to walk people to a certain place. You got to have a balanced point of view, because everything that's happening, like, I'm not going to sit and lie and say that the main issue of the Black community is police brutality. I'm not going to sit and lie to you and say the main issue that's happening in the Black community is abortion. Like, evangelicals can try to make that be as big of a picture as they want it to be. Like, everybody with common sense knows that's an arguing point between two political parties. That's an arguing point.
That's all it is.
Abortion is the arguing point of the conservative party. Just the same way is poverty and what are we going to do for people that are poor is the arguing point. The poor and working class is the arguing point of the Democratic Party. The reality is neither one of those spaces, not everybody, I ain't gonna say neither one, everybody in both of those spaces don't care about those issues the way that they say that they care. Because the truth is this, as a Christian, my plan for abortion is not voting. So me voting is not my plan for abortion. My plan for abortion is being a part of my community and teaching young women how to respect themselves, teaching young women how to wait until they're married to have sex, teaching young boys how to respect themselves, teaching young women how to wait until they're married to have sex. My plan for abortion is teaching self-accountability. If I teach my community self-accountability, they're going to learn their worth. They're going to learn their value. And when you know who you are and you know your worth and you know those things, that's when your life begins to reflect them. So I can vote until I'm crazy against abortion. But if me and the church, and I'm going to tell you something about the Democrats right after this, if the church was that concerned about abortion, the church would be funding more programs in the community that target those things. Want to know how I know that the church isn't? Because I'm a part of that community. You want to know how also I know the church isn't? Because the moment that I became a Christian, one of the first, and I'm talking about 20 years ago, this is stuff I've been studying for 20 years. The moment that I became a Christian, I began to look and see how much money does the Church of America put into places and certain issues in America. When you look at the Southern Baptist Convention, they have a fund called the Lottie Moon Fund. Lottie Moon was a woman that went overseas. She started doing missionary work. So now they have a fund set up to send overseas to those places in her honor. $2-3 million a year. It may be more by now. It may be less, right? But when you look at some of those same organizations, when it's time for them to come and fund things in the hood, and it's like, hey, we need money for this program. We got man, we'll give y'all $7,000. Unless the only time more money is available, and I'm talking from personal experience, I'm talking about what I know. The only time more money is available is when you assimilate. When you assimilate to the program, we'll open the floodgates for you. Because now we're going to send you out, not making disciples in the likeness and image of Jesus, but we're going to send you out into the likeness and image of making disciples of us. The same thing with Democrats. If Democrats were really concerned about poverty and education in the Black community, instead of sending millions of dollars into the Black community to nonprofits and nonprofits that aren't really doing anything in the community but fighting their fights, meaning when it's time for a protest, I'm gonna make sure we got people. When it's time for this, I'm gonna make sure that happen. Instead of sending millions of dollars to basically what you're doing is you're sending millions of dollars to fund soldiers. You're funding soldiers. If the Democratic Party cared that much about education, poverty, and the equal playing field in the African American community, they would be sending those millions of dollars into places like St. Louis, where the school district lost its accreditation for $90 million. They would be sending that money. We have it back now, but our kids couldn't even go to certain high school. They couldn't leave one high school and go to another because their school was unaccredited. We closed 100 schools in St. Louis. Our kids couldn't even go to certain colleges because their high school was unaccredited. And then the suburb districts, because when the school district is unaccredited, right? When the school district is unaccredited, children in that district by law can bus to any district that's close to them, and that district has to pay for their transportation. So we had children that were qualified on paper that could go to schools in the suburbs, but the suburb schools had PTO meetings and parent meetings saying they didn't want the kids to come there. So now the kids are stuck in schools that are unaccredited. If the Democrats cared that much about education and poverty in Black America, they would be sending that money into the community to fund these things instead of sending that money into the community to fund armies. Like, where your treasure is, your money is going to be. So a person can never in the day and age of the internet and information and access, where I can look and see what you're, as a nonprofit, as a church, whatever you are, I can look and see where you are putting your money at. In the day and age when I can look online and find out where you're putting your money, you will never be able to convince me that you have a love for my community, because your money don't make it to us. It don't.
It's all there.
It don't make it.
And here's the thing about people who pick those political key talking points. Like conservatives have the pro-life, and you got to vote pro-life, you got to vote pro-life. We've had plenty of conservative presidents, and they've never gotten rid of abortion. Same thing with Democrats. They talk about poor people, communities like you, and they've never solved that either.
Yes.
So this dream of like, we're going to have this next president we got to vote this pro-life because he's going to get rid of abortion. But George Bush didn't. Trump didn't in his 4 years. The other George Bush
Trump
didn't.
Trump didn't even talk about
Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan didn't do it. So like, you go back and you just look at every step of the way, and every person who's promised this and that, whether Democrat or Republican, no one has solved any of those issues.
Because this is the thing, right? This is what you gotta understand. This is what you gotta understand, right? Abortion is a talking point for Republicans. You know why?
That's all they're doing, just to get them on.
But you know why it's a talking point? Because they know when they talk on it, it's gonna rile the Christians up. Yes, protect the unborn. We care about unborn life. If Christians were that concerned, what we need to do is change it to pro-birth and not pro-life. Because if you were really pro-life, you would care about George Floyd being murdered. You wouldn't care about him being on fentanyl. If you were pro-life, that was a life lost. It don't matter what he was on. He could have been on cocaine, crack, and fentanyl. And we
care until the baby is born, and then once the baby's born,
it's over. If we are pro-life, why are there what we have on record in America? 50 million Christians, but there are 400,000 children sitting in foster homes and orphanages that are unadopted. Out of 50 million Christians, if you are that concerned with pro-life, why are there homes and buildings full of unadopted children that you fought for so they wouldn't get aborted? And now when they didn't get aborted and the parents don't want them and the parents put them into foster care, you don't even go get them. If we were that concerned with life, don't get them kids. Anybody, you pro-life, don't get them kids out of them foster homes, and I'm going to believe you. Don't get them kids out the cages on the border. And don't tell me Obama did it, because I don't care if Obama did it or Michelle Obama did it. If
they're still in the cages.
That's a problem. It don't matter who put them in there. And for everybody to act like they're not there, that's even more of a problem. Bro, we have kids sleeping in cages on the floor, bro, like dogs. Like dogs. Now, and you know what makes people feel comfortable with that? Because I'm gonna tell you the truth. What makes people feel comfortable about that, because our president, the current president, who probably won't be after like 4 electorals, but our current president, he got on camera, he got on TV, he got on the internet, he went everywhere that he said these people are animals. They're coming into our country, they're killing people, and they're raping people, and they're doing this and they're doing that, right? You know who else that was done to in the history of America? The reason why it still affects us to this day? Black men. If you go back to a certain era in time and you look at movies, guess who the villain is in every movie, chasing a white woman down, trying to kill her, rape her, do something to her? A black man. Like, people can sit and play crazy all they want to, but programming is real. Like, America has been programmed. America is continuing to be programmed. So when our president get on camera and say these Mexicans are animals, they criminals, they're going to kill you, they're going to run into your home, guess what? If an animal has a baby, what does that make the child? A little animal. So I don't have no concern for him neither, because you're purring an animal, you an animal. Bro, the fact that we can sit comfortably in our homes every day and eat food and watch Netflix or Hulu or whatever it is we watching and argue on social media, and there are children sleeping on the ground in cages like dogs, and we're not making a fuss about it, it's crazy. Bro, I told somebody the other day, one of the worst things that have ever happened to me in my life. I've had a lot of stuff happen to me in my life. One of the worst things happened to me in my life, if not the top tier worst thing that happened to me in my life. When I was 14 years old, I was took from my mother. And I told somebody the other day, I said, that's a pain you could never understand. Somebody coming into your space that you dwell in and saying, your mother can't keep you no more. I'm about to take you. They took me and my brother, right? So now I'm in a group home separated from my little brother. I'm separated from my mother. I don't know where my mother is. I don't know where my brother is. All I know is he gone. These people that took him. I don't know where my mother is. All I know is she's gone. Bro, imagine being a child in a cage and you just got stripped from your parents and you don't know where they are.
You don't even speak the language, bro, potentially either.
Yeah, and don't speak their language, and they're afraid of you. They don't want to talk to you. They don't know if you're about to kill them. They don't know what, man, them kids are terrified. But we watching Netflix, and we watching Hulu, and we arguing, saying that we're pro-life, and we're saying that we're pro-this, but the reality is we're pro-birth. That's what we are. Because if you were pro-life, only time I see Christians, a majority of Christians, be pro-life is when it comes to two things: sex trafficking and abortion.
Mm-hmm.
When it's not sex trafficking and abortion, it's not pro-life. It's what did you do to get this done to you? That's when it's that. But we don't go into an abortion. If I guarantee you right now, just like that person said, what about him being high on fentanyl? I guarantee you right now, if you send a group of Christians into an abortion clinic to go in there and try to rescue some women from having abortion, them women could be on their own crack. They could be on fentanyl. They could be to smoke a pound of weed before they came, snorted some cocaine, popped some pills. They could have been to done all of that. You know what they're going to go in there and do? They're going to say, Jesus loves you and you deserve all of Jesus's love. Come on with me. We're not going to question what they did and how they got there. Mm-hmm. So when I see it happen to somebody out of that space, why is it that I question what did they do to get there? Because of each one of us, each person, if we practice that same idea, right? When it came to everybody in the world, we wouldn't nobody be Christian, would nobody be redeemable. Would nobody be able, because if we looked at everybody we walked up to share the gospel with and said, what did you do to get her, to determine if they're worthy of being saved, would nobody be saved? Especially me. And that's reality.
Man, you're in here today, man. This is good. This is good stuff. You know, it's one of the things I wanted to say, you mentioning before, like a lot of people, like you're not having every conversation on Twitter every time something happens, like you said, and most people shouldn't. And that's kind of my thing with that. It's like, what could I possibly add to this conversation that hasn't been said or is being said out of ignorance or whatever?
Hold on one second. Hold your thought. So somebody on here said, this is your stance to just about voting Democrat, right? Let me tell y'all something. Because you think simple don't mean I think simple. We live in a complex world. I think through things complex. I didn't vote for Democrat. I didn't vote for Joe Biden. Joe Biden.
It's an automatic assumption if you disagree with one thing.
It's an automatic assumption because you're able to think through life with common sense without being brainwashed by everything that people are doing around you, that you're liberal. I tell people that all the time. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I didn't vote for neither one of them. I voted, and I didn't vote for Kanye West neither. I didn't vote for Joe Biden because consciously I could not vote for Joe Biden. I couldn't do it with a clear conscience. I didn't vote for Donald Trump for the same reason. I couldn't do it with a clear conscience. But I exercised my right to vote because I'm second generation. I'm second generation off a plantation. I was born on a plantation. I was born. People say Donald Trump the most pro-life president Ever.
Kanye West is. Kanye West would have been the most pro-life.
People say Donald Trump is the most pro-life president ever, but he never said nothing about abortion. While he was president, it came out that he had paid a prostitute money to be quiet for sleeping with her while he was married to his wife. While he was president, it came out that they had audio of him saying, if you want to know how to get a woman, grab him by the vagina. Like, y'all held this man like he's Jesus and he's a sinner. Donald Trump is a Saul for y'all. What God did for Christians with Donald Trump was show you your heart and your desire to have an idol so bad, because your king should never be the president of the United States of America. So y'all hooped and hollered so much at the throne of God, begging him for a king, that he said, here you go, I'm going to give you one. If y'all wanted a Christian king that was pro-life, if you wanted a pro-life president, why y'all didn't stand behind Ben Carson? Donald Trump isn't even a Christian. Why y'all didn't stand behind Ben Carson? Why? Ben Carson is a Christian. Why didn't we stand behind him? Why didn't we stand behind Rand Paul, the young one? Why? Because you wanted a king. In the same way that Saul was the king, they said he was big in stature and he was this. He looked like a king. You know what I'm saying? They wanted a king so bad, God gave y'all Donald Trump. And that's what y'all got. Now y'all standing behind a man. Y'all standing behind a man right now that's embarrassing our whole country. Y'all standing behind a man that says things and does things that if your children did it, you would discipline them. Y'all standing behind a man that if somebody did it in your real life, you would look at your child and say, don't behave like that. You're standing behind a man that soon as he's out of office as president, first of all, let me tell y'all something else. Donald Trump on record right now has supported Democrats his entire life. Donald Trump supported Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton's campaign. Donald Trump was friends with Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton before he became president. Donald Trump has supported the Democrats that you've hated for the past years. Stop believing everything people tell y'all. Like all Christians need is for a person to tell them that they pro-life. And that's it. And you believe they're a Christian. Donald Trump not pro-life. If he was pro-life, it will reflect the rest of his life. We're talking about a man and his wife don't even like being around him. When she's around him, he reaches for her hand, she snatches away. She didn't even live in the White House with him. So you Christians that are so pro-marriage and so pro-life and so pro all of this, you want to support a man that doesn't even exemplify the things that you believe in. Y'all can't win me over with that. Y'all, come on, man. I'm not that dude. I got my own brain. I think for myself. Donald Trump is not my leader. He the president of the United States. Jesus is my leader. Jesus is my king. There was only one theocratic government ever in the history of this world, and that was ancient Israel. That ain't even modern Israel, because I've been over there too. It's a flea market. Like all they do is over there sell stuff, and the Muslims run most of the country. Ancient Israel was a theocratic government. If you don't know what a theocratic government is, a theocratic government is a government that's solely ran by God. The only government that has ever existed that was a theocratic government was ancient Israel. America is not a theocratic government. America is not a Christian nation. America is more like Babylon than it is like ancient Israel. I'm just a realist. I know what the problem is. Jesus is my king. I don't bow before no man's throne. And I'm not going to pump no man up on no throne and make him feel like he's doing something that he's not doing. No way. Jesus appointed everybody. He also appointed Pharaoh. That don't mean Pharaoh was a man of God. So let's not go there. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Justin. Go ahead with your question.
No. So what I was going to say, and it kind of goes to all of this, like, what could I possibly add to a platform that I could say better than people who are more qualified to say it? So my idea was, let's just talk to people every single week. Let's talk to these three people. Man, this is 22 straight weeks I've done this.
Yeah.
So you're the 66th person I've spoken to in 22 weeks.
That's dope.
Just about this craziness that's happening. So I'm learning. I'm hoping other people are learning. And I think also it's something when you have artists on and you're putting in front of people, it's kind of therapeutic just to talk about it, because maybe the artist or whoever I have on hasn't really, has only taken to social media about their thoughts, but now they can actually talk face to face with somebody and with an audience. and you just get these perspectives. I've learned so much from people. Now maybe I could add my voice to these conversations because I'm informed. You know, when it's hard to, you know, you were talking about before, you know, white people don't like the artists talking about social justice stuff. And then the black artists get upset if a black artist doesn't speak about what's going on in their community. But like you'll never understand that perspective if you don't actually talk to these people. I will never know what it's like to walk in your shoes until I speak to you. So I've done that with now 66 people over 22 weeks. I've walked in somebody else's shoes. And that was the whole point of everybody watching this now. You've come along this journey. We've learned. We've all been through COVID together. We've all been through George Floyd together. Now we're all going through this election together. What have we learned? What can we talk about? And how can we move forward? And that was the whole point of doing this community during chaos. We are always a community that is going through some sort of chaos. And 2 weeks ago, I took that chaos to Nigeria, and I spoke to 3 Nigerian artists to talk about what's going on with there. So because too often we think that all the problems of the world revolve around the U.S., but there are Christians in other places of the world going through their own communities of chaos. So that's really this focal point of doing this show, and just us having this conversation and going through the comments. People are learning, or just at least hearing a new perspective, even if they're not agreeing with it. And I think that's super important.
I was super happy when y'all were doing it. Like, I was happy to see y'all doing it, because this is the thing. People have to begin to have dialogue. One of my best friends in the world, like, this is like my brother. Like, I consider him my brother. Like, I love him dearly. Like, I'm talking about, this is my brother. He's white, right? He's a white man. Not only is he a white man, but he'll tell you flat out his mouth. He'll say, I'm a capitalist and I'm conservative. And he like, let's go. He's well educated. He's informed about what he's talking about. He's brilliant. This is my best friend. And me and him have these conversations all the time. And guess how we walk away from them conversations every time? Man, I love you, bro. Can't wait to see you again. When you coming to visit me? I just had my daughter. I want you to meet your niece. Like, we have to begin to get to a point that we can have conversations and agree to disagree. Let me tell you what's disheartening about it. I'm saying this to the Christians because we're on a Christian platform. Let me tell you what's disheartening about how Christians handle things like this. When I look at the Bible tells me to bear my brother's burdens. The Bible tells me to bear my brother's burdens. If my brother comes to me and says, bro, I'm hurt. I can't believe this. My response to him should not be a rebuttal or to try to teach him at that moment. My response to my brother should be, bro, tell me about it. What's going on? I should hear him out, or her. I should hear what they have to say. I should listen with the idea of that I'm listening to understand them versus listening to respond.
Yeah, there shouldn't be a rebuttal.
And at the end of it, we should be able to pray and walk away from this together. Let me tell you what's disheartening about the Christian American, right? When we go to other countries, right? I said this on the live a little while ago on Facebook. When we go to other countries, we go to the community in that country and we identify the leaders, the people that are already Christian. We identify the leaders. We allow them to teach us the culture because we understand that we don't know the culture of where you live in. This is a different world. Teach me your culture. Teach me how I should act while I'm over here. Teach me what I shouldn't do. Let me sit around you and have regular, natural conversation and interaction so I can even begin to understand the things that I might do against you that are insensitive unintentionally. Let me sit around you and let me learn. And then when I learn, this is what we do in other countries. Okay, how can I support what you're doing already? Right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the Black community, people come in and they tell us how we should feel. They tell us what we should do. They try to tell us how we should dress. There's a program in Chicago that boasts on changing young men's lives by having them cut their hair. They try to tell us what we should do. They try to make us assimilate to be a part. And I'm talking about what I know. See, a lot of people think most people don't think I'm just talking. They know I know what I'm talking about. But for people that don't have an idea of even trying to understand, all they do is see people talk. So they ready for a debate. We live in a weird age now where people don't even try to interact with people to try to understand and get some wisdom and knowledge. The first thing people do these days is come to post a debate.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to ask them sincerely. I saw the post you put up and said, "Do you have any questions for Thi'sl on the live?" Everybody on there cracked a joke. Everybody. Ask him, do he eat spaghetti with a spoon? Ask him, do he do this? But we're living in a time where if somebody has information and knowledge that you need, why are you going to turn it away? You should be trying to sit at their feet and understand. I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about people that you know that know what they're talking about to help you understand. And that's what we do when we go to other countries. But when it comes to the Black community, people come into our community and try to tell us what we should do. Well, let me tell y'all something. The Black community is a different world from the white community. It's an entirely different culture. We think different than y'all. We dress different from y'all. We have similar issues, but we got a separate set of issues than y'all. We have a different history than y'all. We have not lived in the same America as y'all. Like, America that you live in is not the America that I live in. A white man just tried to tell me on Flame Post earlier that he's affected by Black men being killed by police just as much as me. And I said, how can you think that? As a white man, you will never have the encounter with police that I have. The moment that a police officer pulls me over in the wrong situation, I instantly begin to have a caution that I can't do nothing out of the normal, or it could cost me my life. My white friend that I said my best friend, he didn't believe that when I first told him that. He didn't believe me. He said, no way. Me and him were together riding through Washington, going to Spokane from Seattle. The police pulled us over in a van. We were going to do ministry. Everybody in there is Christians. You had like 3 Black people, an Asian guy, and 3 white people, right? The police officer pulled us over. I'm in the back, all of us in the back, 2 white people, 1 driving, 1 in the passenger seat. The police officer came up to the van and he said, "Why are you not wearing your seatbelt?" To the driver. He didn't have his seatbelt on. This is my best friend. "Why are you not wearing your seatbelt?" "Oh man, I this, I that." He walked around the van, looked at everybody in there, came to all of the Black people and the Asian person, and gave all of us tickets for not wearing a seatbelt, and didn't give nobody in the van white tickets. Another dude that was in the van that was white got so mad, he said, "No, give me a ticket." He said, "We're not leaving until you give me a ticket too." And that's what people need to start doing. When you see people affected by something that you know is injustice, don't you go try to defend the people that's doing it to them. You're supposed to stand up and say, "Give me a ticket too, I want one." Because that's what I would do for you. If I was in my neighborhood and a white man walked down my block and somebody like, "Man, look at that little weak white dude, I'm finna slap him," I'm gonna be like, "No, you not." Not because he white, because he a human. Like, I wouldn't let nobody do nothing to you that I feel like I don't want done to me. And that's the place that we have to get to. When it comes to the Black community, like, stop trying to tell us what we need to do with our world and our culture. Like, this is our culture. Everything in our culture isn't negative. Everything in our culture isn't bad. Like everything that we do isn't something that's to be frowned upon. And we know that because people steal everything from our culture. We know that. Every dance move. And we got more.
Every popular trend in culture right now,
bro,
basically comes from the hip hop and Black community.
And the sad thing is, our culture has so much more to offer than dance moves and TikTok videos. Like, bro, there are brilliant people in the Black community. Y'all want me to give y'all some real life examples? Go to some of your predominantly white churches. If everybody is bent on diversity and racial reconciliation, go to your conference flyers. Why aren't there never any Black people on there teaching? Are they not qualified? Or do you not want to hear them talk? Why is it that when church, and I'm talking about stuff I know, I've been in church plant meetings. Why is it that in church plant meetings, right? I sat in the church plant meeting before, and the person showed me a map. And he said, in the next few years, we plan on planting 50 churches here, right? We plan on planting 50 churches. I said, why? He said, because there aren't any. Now, this is St. Louis. This is my hometown. So I'm like, no, Pastor so-and-so church is right here, and Pastor so-and-so church is right here, and this pastor church is right there, and that pastor's church is over there. That pastor, I'm pointing out churches. The conversation went to, no, there aren't any Southern Baptist churches there. So we want to put Southern Baptist churches. Why is it that there's a Black pastor in this community that understands the gospel? And I'm talking about people I know. I pointed out people I know that understands the gospel, that teaches the gospel. He's one of the most faithful men that I've ever seen in my life. He loves his children. He loved his wife. His wife died. He loved her to the day she passed. He loved his children. He loved his wife. He opened the doors of the church to the community. He never got a salary from the church. He sold real estate. He pumped his own money into the church community. He taught Bible study. He taught Sunday mornings. He counseled people. He came to people that were sick. He did all of these things for 20 and 30 years, and you come into our communities with your money and your appeal and your things that you think we need, and you tell him what he's been doing all of these years is null and void. There's no church there. Why isn't it a church there? Why not come to our community the same way that you do in Haiti, the same way that you do in London, the same way that you do everywhere else, and ask them folks in their community, what church do you go to around here? Who's looking out for you guys? Oh, Pastor so-and-so, man, they be good to us. Why not do that? Why? I'm going to tell you something else, because I want people to understand how real this is. I done been to the top tier in the church world. Some of the people that people look up to, and they watch them on the internet, I sat down and had conversations with them. I've been in rooms with them. I've been in meetings. Like, I see them communicate in a different way than you do. Why is it that when they see a Thi'sl, right? Or they see a Tadashi, and I don't know what his experience is, I'm just making examples of people. But when they see a Thi'sl, why is it when they see a Thi'sl, the response when you see a Thi'sl is to come take Thi'sl away from his community? And I'm talking real life. Why come proposition me to come to your city and plant a church in a Black neighborhood in your city where you're going to give me an entirely white staff, you're going to give me an entirely group of white people, and I'm not saying nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with white people. We all know this, so don't nobody get worried. But you're going to take me and give me an implant church. You're going to give me an entirely white staff. You're going to give me an entirely white community. You're going to give me a group of people and implant me. You're going to make me a Black face in a Black community so that you can say that you planted a church in a Black community. Why come offer me $70,000 to come move to your city and do that when you can say, Thi'sl, here's $70,000 for your church home? How do you guys, what resources do you need? Here. because you're already plugged in. You've already built a rapport with the community. They already know you. You're already under solid leadership. You've already proven that what you know and what you believe is this. Why would you come try to uproot me from the very people that need me? Just so you can say that you planted a church in the Black community. And the moment that I do something that you don't like, guess what's going to happen? You're sending me back to St. Louis. You ain't going to think about it. But guess what the Black pastor, not even just the Black pastor, but guess what the pastor going to do that been pastoring me 20 years? He going to walk me through restoration. You're going to send me back home and take your salary. You're going to send me home, take your salary, and you're going to shame me on the internet. You're going to write a letter and tell everybody you sent me back home.
Yep. Because nothing can be done in private either. Everything's got to be out there.
I'm talking about what I know.
I think it's wild too that you have, just kind of in your scenario that you're talking about too, people would rather send their whole church or a youth group or whatever to another country, to Haiti, Dominican Republic, maybe even Africa, than actually step foot into the rough parts of their own community to try to make a difference and work. Talk about it all the time. If you can get the local, then you build out, right? But they can't even get the local because they're afraid to go there, or they don't want to go there. They'd rather go somewhere else and let them take care of, themselves or their own problems. So that's essentially kind of what you're saying too. It's like taking someone from one situation and just putting them somewhere else rather than fixing it themselves or letting that person work in that community.
What I'm saying is this: white evangelical church plant networks, white evangelical churches, they recruit influential young Black men like me the same way that colleges recruit high school students, the same way that the NFL recruits college students. They recruit and try to uproot you out of where you are versus trying to help support you so that you can continue to build
where you're at.
Man, listen to I turned down a $70,000 offer to go to another city to do this because I told them I wasn't gonna leave St. Louis and leave my community to come for your money and to come for you to put me as a Black face in a church in the hood that you've never stepped foot in, that you're going to ultimately control, because the moment that I don't do what you think that I should be doing because of you, then you're going to send me back home. So that's what I'm saying. Like, instead of trying to recruit young Black men that are popular, no, I ain't even going to say popular. Instead of trying to recruit young Black men and pluck them out of the local churches that are led by Black pastors that have labored with them 10, 15 years to get them to be the person that you see in front of you, instead of trying to snatch them away from that, why not go and support it? This is the thing about the church. I hate when people say the church not diverse. When people say the church not diverse, it shows me the understanding that people have about the church. The church and the mission, even when you see local churches say, God has given me this space this is my space right here. God has given me this. God didn't give you a neighborhood when you put a church in a community. God gave all of us the Great Commission. So imagine a group of people standing at the end of the globe, right? And God saying, start there and go to the middle and meet. That's the Great Commission. So God didn't just give me this space. God has given me a charge to rally people in this space and spread them out until we're supposed to be bumping heads with each other in other places, trying to share the gospel and make disciples. Because eventually people are supposed to go and spread, whether you visiting, going, coming back, whatever the case is, right? But when people say the church is diverse, it shows me that people don't even have an idea what the church is. The church is a global entity. Your local congregation is not the church. Because there aren't a lot of black people in your church, that does not make the church undiverse. The church is diverse because globally there are people of all ethnicities in it that bow their knees to Jesus as the Savior. So the church is diverse when you look at the church the right way. And I told the pastor this before. A pastor came to me and he said, man, we're trying to get the church more diverse, talking about the local body. Now you got the local body of people. He said, we're trying to get the church to be more diverse. And I told them, I said, listen to me. Don't worry about getting black people in here. I said, first of all, y'all churches in the hood. Hood black people are not going to come in here and feel comfortable. Because when you walk in, there's so many different things culturally that's going on. They're not going to even understand it. They're going to feel out of place. The music style is different culturally. The way people dress is different culturally. The invitation, if you want to come and have coffee after it, we don't meet to have coffee in our community. That's not our thing. Everything is different. I told him, I said, don't worry about getting black people into your local body of the church. I said, you're going to have diversity. You're going to have black people eventually. You're going to have black people come in here because the people that you are a part of, they're going to eventually reach out to people in their personal life. Yeah. And the black person that they know is going to eventually come. But guess what? He's not going to be the hood dude off the street. He's going to be a black, well-rounded, a hybrid. But he's still African-American. But the goal isn't to get him in your church so you can have a picture of diversity. Because the church is already diverse. So white churches shouldn't, their mission and focus should not be to see how many black people that I can get into my church. That's not biblical. That's not the Bible. It becomes a thing because it shows the church plant world and like that's a trophy. Like when they get a young Thi'sl, like y'all see this. I'm not talking. People know what I'm. Now people looking around like, oh my gosh. When you get a Thi'sl and bring him under you and take him to a conference and you say, oh, that's the young kid I was talking about. He black, he speaks well, we've taught him all of this stuff, and now I'm gonna show you off. Come on. That's not biblical. That's not a goal. If you're not doing that for the right reasons, that's not biblical. Like, it's not a biblical idea to sit in your church and strategize how can you get more hood people to join. The same thing with a predominantly black church. It's not biblical to sit there and say, how can we get more white people in here? What should be happening is, how can we live organic lives that it affects the people around us and it draws the people here that God wants? God may not want one dreadhead hood dude in your church at all. They may not never be there. But that still don't mean the church is not diverse, because the church is a globe. The church is not a circle. The church isn't your block. The church isn't your building. The church is a globe. It's a global thing. So when I think about the church, I don't, even when we talk about America, like, I think we're so arrogant, and even me, when what I'm about to say, I even thought like this at one point. When I used to hear the Great Commission, do you know the thing that I used to think about all the time? I thought about leaving from where I'm at and going to save the world. Because I'm in America. We got all of these resources. We got all of this stuff. We got all of these things. Like, God has sent us to save the world. That superhero syndrome. Yeah. Unstoppable. Yeah. But the reality is, there's a dude reading the Great Commission right now in Thailand. And the Lord has sparked his heart to go make disciples. Go to the end of the earth and make disciples, right? He's probably going to look at America and say, I want to go over there and share the gospel. I know people in Africa right now that have told me, man, we want to come over there and send some missionaries so bad. When I was in Israel, you know what the people in Israel kept telling me? Y'all get so many things wrong about the Bible. Wow. That's all they kept saying. Y'all get so many things wrong. Y'all get so many things. But for us, we believe we're the pinnacle. We believe God picked us, chose us, and said, hey, look, here, you go. You go. So we believe we have a better context than the people who have generationally studied the scriptures for the past 100 years.
Yeah.
We have a better context than them. But when I think about the church, I think global. So when I think diverse, I'm not just thinking about who's sitting in here with me right now. First of all, in my neighborhood that I grew up in, the only white people that live over there are people that came to gentrify my neighborhood. There are no resident white people that lived in my neighborhood. So if I plant a church there, I'm gonna have to go outside of my neighborhood to find white people, to intentionally target them.
Yeah. Yeah.
The gospel tells me to preach to everybody. And the people that are going the scriptures say the Holy Spirit draws men. So if I'm doing what I'm supposed, if I'm preaching the gospel, and I had this church planted here, and the community of people that are living inside of this church or living the Great Commission, and they're living the gospel, the Holy Spirit is going to use those people to draw men and women that God has given to them. Right? It's that simple.
Man.
But people don't want to think about it that simple because everybody want to be deep. We live in a culture where you got to be deep. You got to break down these terms and
It's woke culture.
Nobody's ever been saved from theology. People get saved from knowing who Jesus is, and that's all they know when they're first saved. Now you learn, you grow, and all of that, but the gospel, as beautiful as it is and complex, is simple. It's simple. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that those would believe on him will have everlasting life and not perish. That's the gospel. I'm a sinner in desperate need of a savior. The Holy Spirit brings me to this point of knowing that because we don't know it on our own. And as a response to that, I point my affections to the cross. That's the gospel. But we want to assimilate people to a theological and a doctrinal confine. That's why people go into churches, go into communities where those churches are and say there aren't no churches. Because the church isn't a Southern Baptist church, or the church isn't a Pentecost or a UAW church, or the church isn't a Church in God of Christ church, or it isn't a whatever the kind of church denomination name that you want to put in it. That's why they can go into a neighborhood and look and say there aren't no churches, because we don't want to pull people into this idea of global Christianity. We want to introduce them into a doctrinal confine. That's why people arguing with me in the comments, because what I'm saying don't fit their doctrine. But what I'm saying is all Bible.
Man, you even dropped a little altar call at the end. Go for John 3:16. Man, I'm gonna ask you one more question, and otherwise we're gonna be here until next week's episode. We'll have a marathon. But I wanted to ask you this specifically. You got shot in your community, pretty much. So what's it like to serve and serve and serve in a community and then almost be taken out by that community, and then now have to have the mindset, okay, now I have to go back into that community and continue to serve? Like, how do you justify that? How do you rectify that in your head?
The gospel. Am I better than Jesus? Jesus died. The people that put Jesus on the cross, he died for them. Am I better than Jesus? That's what he sent me here for. All them times I sung them songs, I signed up to die. You can take my life. You can do this. I meant it. Because I had already saw the beauty of that displayed for me. See, nobody knows the depth of my sin but me and Jesus.
Yeah.
I know how foul of a person I was. I know the things that I fight through now. If people knew half of the stuff I did to people before Christ, they wouldn't even trust to be around me. If people knew the darkness that I've endured through life, Jesus, when I met Jesus, I was a full-blown street dude, falsely accused of a murder that I didn't do, but guilty of enough things that I should have been in jail for the rest of my life. God knew that. He still looked at me and said, come to me.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite scripture in the Bible is Psalms 27:10. When my mother and my father have forsaken me, Lord, you take me in and you show me your ways. That's my favorite scripture in the Bible. I was that person. Everybody that was supposed to love me, every chance they got that I did something wrong that they didn't like, guess what they did? They threw me away. The St. Louis school system threw me away. I got expelled from school. They told me I could never go to another public school again when I was in the 8th grade. I got kicked out of all St. Louis public schools. My mom, she let me go to a group home. My daddy, he abandoned me. Everybody that was supposed to love me and protect me and keep me safe, every chance that they got that I did something that they didn't like, they sent me away. But when I stood face to face with Jesus for the first time, it became a reality to me that this Savior that my grandmother has been talking to me about my whole life, he knows everything that I've ever done. And guess what he should do to me? He should turn his back on me and he should walk away. But guess what he did?
The only one who didn't.
Only person that didn't. He said, when your mother and your father forsook you, I already had a plan. This was walking you to me the whole time. So when I almost died in my community, guess what? And it's the life that God has laid out before me. And wherever that life take me, I'm going to that life and I'm going to stand 10 toes strong. I'm going to stand 10 toes. I was right back outside. I went
Just
in the
another
house.
testimony
Yeah.
that strengthens you.
I went in the house hiding. I went in the house scared. I was right back outside because I knew at the end of the day, the Lord was still protecting me. The Lord was still protecting me. The Lord has equipped me to protect myself. Like the Lord is my light and my salvation. Of whom shall I be afraid? Who? When I say that stuff, I mean it. And it ain't because I'm tough and I'm big and I'm bad, but because I've been to a place so low and so dark. The only person that was there with me was Jesus. The only person that pulled me back was Jesus. If whatever happened to me in this world, I pray that it is something that's deemed worthy of the glory of God. Long as that's the case, I'm cool. I'm straight.
Man, and after that, so I met you at Elevation last year in Boston, and you just gave yourself a description, I'm big, I'm bad, I'm tough. Like from that distance, people may get that from you just by looking at you, but to meet you in person and to see the amount of joy and laughter that you're filled with. And I think Elevation was the first time you had performed, right? Since you had been shot.
Yeah, it was the first time. Yeah.
And you were jumping on stage. You're like, look at my leg. And you're jumping on stage.
Yeah.
And just the joy and the fire and the passion that you see. Just like, this guy is unstoppable. And just seeing you on here tonight too, that same passion, kind of not saying that you're telling people off, but kind of telling people what it is with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
And then having that holy, punch behind you, man, it's a pleasure just to watch you move and to just watch you work, man.
Hey, bro, I'll tell anybody, like I'm just being 100. that's something that came from pressure make diamonds. Being shot, sitting in my house, you know, like, bro, I didn't know if I was going to be able to walk again.
I remember just watching,
like, yeah,
you know, you chronicle everything.
Yeah, so like that, like even that moment was something that God took and he shaped, he used that to shape me. That's where this comes from. This comes from that. Now, what I was doing before that came from something else. But this is a byproduct of that. And I have my days where I'm weak. I have my days where I don't want to get up out the bed. I have my days where I don't want to do nothing. I have my days just like everybody else. I'm human. I'm a sinner, just like everybody in this world. But there's one thing. When I walked out of that jail cell, and I knew, even though I didn't do that, I knew like them people could have kept me there for the rest of my life. The only reason I'm out of here is because of Jesus. I made the Lord a promise. I said, I'm not going to say what I'm not going to do from now on, because I knew I wasn't finna lie. Because I'm like, I'm the hard-headed son. I'm the son that God gave me so much sense that I want to figure stuff out on my own, and I want to try to I said, God, I ain't gonna say what I'm not gonna do, but I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. Not tell you as in authority, but I'm gonna tell you what I know I'm gonna do from this point forward. I said, wherever you send me, I'm gonna go, and whenever I hear you talking to me, I'm gonna listen. And when I laid down for them 3 months with my leg broke, it reminded me of the story that I had heard 100 times about the sheep and the shepherd. When the sheep goes strays off, the shepherd goes and finds him and breaks his leg. And he don't just break his leg and leave him there. He breaks his leg and put him on his shoulder. And he carries him around with him so that the sheep is so close to him that all he hears is the shepherd voice over and over all day. Yeah. He gets so familiar with the shepherd voice because he's right there. So the next time the sheep have a moment and the shepherd say, come here, guess what? He'd heard his voice so many times while he was on them shoulders and the Lord was carrying him that he instantly know that it's God talking. And that's been my life. Like my whole life, I done had a broken leg. Getting shot just was an outside resemblance of it. I'd have had a broken leg my whole life. I've never had the odds working in my favor. And my whole life, God has carried me. And this incident only reminded me that every time, it don't matter if I got $1 million or I got $5. It's not me. It's not my might. It's not how smart or wise I am. It's none of that stuff matters. What's carrying me is the Lord. And then all that did was shake me. On my song Activated, I was serious. I said, man, I woke up a different beast from that surgery. Man, getting shot wasn't even the part. Getting shot wasn't like how people say it burned and you did. Like getting shot wasn't even the part. Like I wasn't scared. It didn't burn. Like I wasn't in pain. Like I was calling people on my phone like, yo, my leg is twisted to the side. My femur broke. I couldn't do nothing. Yo, I'm in the street. I got shot. I had a shootout. Some dudes tried to rob me, blah, blah, blah. That wasn't even the part. The part of the pain came in the healing process. But when the healing process came and the pain came because that was the moment that God used that to help me understand all of the pain that I've allowed you to go through your whole life. I want you to know 2 things. One, all of that pain was to shape you into the person that you are right now. 2, I'd have been with you the whole time. You don't got nothing to worry about. I'm like, God, man, listen, temporary pain, it don't even compare to the moments that I know this is me and God genuine fellowshipping. It don't even compare. So that's the greatest love of my life. I've never had love like that. Like I've never had love like that. Like I went through my whole life feeling like people that should love me didn't love me. I've never knew a love like that. The greatest love I've ever known. Ever. So I'm cool. I'm cool. That incident shaped me into what people gonna see me grow to be now. Like that was just the beginning. That wasn't the end. That was the beginning. That was the beginning of a whole new thing, a whole new phase.
Not many people could say that the best thing that ever happened to them was getting shot.
That was one of the best things ever happened to me. Hands down. Hands down. Best things. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Because I'm gonna tell you why. You can end us all. I know you asked a question. I'm gonna tell you why. Being shot and having my leg broke taught me so much stuff about life. We only understand how good, joy is. Joy is only good to us because we understand how bad it feels to be hurt. If you had never been hurt, joy wouldn't be as amazing as it is to you. It would still be good. But if you had never been hurt at all, when you're hurt and you're down and you're low, you feel like the world is over. Like let's be real, we're human. We get into some situations where we're hurt and we're down. It could be a girl breaking up with you, it could be a relationship ending, it could be any of these things. It could be physical. When it happens, you feel like the world is in. That's how I felt when I was 14 in the group home, took from my mom. I felt like this is the end of the world. But you know how I was able to endure stuff after that in my life that happened to me? Because I made it through that. And I was able to look back at that and say, man, that was the worst incident of my life up to this point. And I made it through that feeling like the world was over. So guess what? I could keep going. Being shot and my legs and my muscles having to heal, it taught me something. I remember I was getting physical therapy. And so right now in my leg, I got complete function of it for us, walking, moving, jog.
Awesome.
I jog now. I still haven't started running because it's mental. Because in my head, I still think screws gonna go everywhere, and you know what I'm saying?
I understand. I had an ACL. I tore my ACL, so I had that surgery, and like anytime for like at least a year or two, is like anytime I was to jump or run or did any action, I'm just like, I'm like, I can't do it. It's all mental. You just got to get over it.
And so I'm back jogging. I work out. I do leg press. I do all of that stuff. But there are parts of my leg so there's a part of my leg from like under my knee up to my knee that will never feel the same again. I got nerve damage. When I touch it on one side, I feel it on the other side of my leg. Like it feels it has a certain feel to it. But
I get that too from my surgery.
Yeah, so it doesn't stop my function though. So there are parts in my muscle, in my thigh and in my calf that I had was called scar tissue. So scar tissue is, if you have an injury, your body is used to moving, your muscles used to moving and pumping so much blood per day and all the time with you moving. When you have surgery and different stuff and your muscle not functioning, this is one of the reasons it happens. Your muscle not functioning the way it should. You have what's called scar tissue sometimes where that muscle doesn't fully heal, but it's like patches. So I have patches in my leg that have scar tissue, here and there in different spots, right? And so I was in physical therapy, and my therapist had he has this rolling thing. It was like a metal thing. Because he'll get it and like catch the scar. Like it'll be lumps. At first it was lumps. So he'll get it and it'll like,
you gotta like break it up.
Yeah, so it'll catch on it and he'll start doing it. And he'll be like, is that too hard? I'm like, no, do it harder, bro. And he's like, you sure? I'm like, yes. But he didn't know what was happening to me. Bro, like even now with my calf on that side of the leg, my calf on the left leg looked like I've been playing sports my whole life. My calf on the right side, you could tell if you look, it's smaller than the other one because it had so much time, like depending on the other one, and the scar tissue in it, the muscle just didn't develop back right. But even like right now, when I get my calf massaged, bro, I just be laid back. It feel like fireworks exploding in my leg. And I just be like, yo, don't stop, please. Like, keep going. But guess what, though? I never would have known what that feel like if I wouldn't have made it through that pain. That was on the other side of the pain. So getting shot taught me that. God, I lit the first days I went to God and I was like, bro, when I got shot, people don't understand. I was at the point of total quit. Like I had probably already gave up in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm not a give up person, but I had so much stuff happen that was out of my control for the past years. I was at the give up point. Getting shot brought me back to life. Like, and the first days it happened, I was there and I was in a room. I remember like literally talking to God and said, man, why have you let all this stuff happen to me through my whole life? Like, why do you keep letting this stuff happen to me? And I was laying in there in the dark by myself at the hospital. And I just remember hearing the Lord speak to me and say, it's not why I allowed this stuff to happen to you. It's what I'm trying to work out of you through the stuff that's happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
At that moment, I said, let's get it. Let's go. I was like, what are we doing? And from that point, my whole demeanor shifted. It brought me back to life. People were calling me, trying to console me, and I'm talking to them, and they're like, bro, I was calling you to try to make you feel better. You helped me. My partner texted me like, bro, how are you talking so positive on the internet? I said, I'm not talking positive. This is flowing out of my heart. This is really how I feel. You know what I'm saying? But I learned that on the other side of pain. For anybody out there right now, I don't care what it is that you're going through. Whatever pain it is you're going through, whatever your life looks like, whatever chaos is in, whatever the situation is, whatever it is that you're going through, that pain that you're going through, depending on how you go through it, is temporary. There was a lady that got injured at the same time I did. She didn't get shot. She got injured, broke the same bone as I broke, had the same surgery I had, the same rod, we had the same procedure, probably had the same type of physical therapy regimen. But guess what? When I first saw her the first day, she was on a cane, on a walker, and I wasn't even on a walker yet. I'm like, what happened to you? She like, I broke my femur. I'm like, me too. Few weeks later, I see her again. Guess what? I'm up on the walker. She on the walker. She still ain't got no better yet. I'm like, you okay? Man, I be in the gym doing physical therapy. You should come down there. She like, I need to pull myself into doing it. Guess what? A few months later, I'm off the walker. Not even months. A few weeks later, I'm off the walker and I'm on crutches. I see her again. Guess what? She's still on the walker. She's still messed up. She's still haven't developed. I'm on a cane now. And now she's still on the walker. The pain that you're going through, it depends on how you go through it, what's going to be produced inside of you. You can lay down and complain and give up and quit and wait on somebody to come save you. They're not coming. Nobody's coming to save you. They're not going to come. The person that is going to save you is already there with you. It's all on how you go through pain, on how you end up on the other side. My doctors told me it was going to take me 1.5 years to 2 years before I was able to be healed and get up on the stage and be able to jump around and do stuff and all of that. When I first went to the doctor told me, he looked me in my face. He said, this is not good. You're not healing well. Your bone not doing well. You should have had all of this instead of that. Guess what I did? I ain't go home and put my head down and start complaining. I prayed. I said, God, this your thing. This ain't even mine. This yours. Like, whatever you want from me out of this yours. You do the work. I don't care if this bone never healed. I don't care what my leg gonna look like. I don't care if I'm never able to walk again. All I care about is somebody gonna get some glory out of this, because if don't nobody get glory out of this, I'm living a pitiful life. If this life I'm living is not gonna give you glory, then it is sad. But the fact that my life is gonna give you glory, it gives me a purpose. I said, God, whatever you gonna do, I said, that's what we gonna do. I went back to the doctor the next time. Guess what my doctor said? They called people in there. They said, oh my God, I can't believe this. They said, I can't believe. They pulled the x-ray up. They said, look at this one. This is what it was last time you came. This is a month apart. This is what it was last time. They said, look at this right here. The lady said, you are a bone-making machine. I have never seen nobody produce bone this fast. Bro, I kept going. I kept going. My therapist would come. She said, I wish I could take you to the other people that I do therapy with. She said, because I want them to see what happens when you put the work in to get results. She said, I wish that people could see that. And when you go through something, it's all about how you go through it. Like if you lay down and give up and quit, you're going to lay in that situation for the rest of your life. You're going to lay there until you die, because stuff going to keep piling up on you. It's going to keep going. It's going to keep coming. Them folks coach told me I was going to be 1.5 to 2 years before I was going to be able to do anything. I went into my doctor 7.5 months later. My doctor looked me in my face. He said, I can't believe what I'm about to say to you right now. I said, what? He said, you don't have to never come back here again. You healed.
Yes.
And I left. I have right now a softball size of bone around my broken part like that right now. Like right now. And the reason I know that it's like it is because God carried me. One, and I put works with my faith. I can't say I believe what God gonna do. I can't say I believe God. I can't say that God gonna move on my behalf if I'm not moving my feet to get to the place that God trying to take me to. So if you in pain, whatever you're going through, whatever life look like for you right now, it's not permanent. It's temporary. And on the other side of that pain is a joy that you will never understand. Like, wait till you get there. Wait till you get there. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth all the pain. It was worth it was worth all of it. All of it. It was worth it.
Man, I'm clapping up for you. I think I've been,
my guy.
I've been more edified during this conversation with you than like anything I've done in years or any service I've been to. So thank you.
Praise God, man.
Salute to you. Real quick. This you can do quickly, I'm sure. Yeah. drop a plug for yourself. Where can people follow you, listen to your music, find out what you're doing?
THISL. That's my Instagram right here. I'm probably the most active on her. They can find me on Instagram. The last single I put out is a song called Until Tomorrow. I put it out during pandemic. It's crazy. I listened to it today, and it sounds like I just made it last night. And I'm basically talking about, man, cut the TV off and tune in with the Lord. No matter how crazy the world is right now, no matter what happens, no matter who becomes the president, no matter who becomes what, God is still in control. That's where our hope should lie. That's where our trust should lie. That's where our faith should lie. We should do the practical things to make sure the world is better, but that's where our hope should lie. So you can find me at THISL on Instagram, and that'll link you to everything else I'm doing. The last single I put out was Until Tomorrow. And everything that I'm doing in the future, you can find me on Instagram. I'll be talking about it, posting stuff about it, and catching people up on it. So,
yeah, man, we gotta do this again sometime. I think I only asked you 3 of the questions that I had prepared, but we just kept hitting different things, and it was amazing.
I'm gonna tell you real truth. The best interviews, one of the best interviewers that I've ever had was DJ Wado, right?
Mm-hmm.
The secret to Wado and his interview style that I picked up on and he mentioned, the best people that do interviews are people that ask questions and let the person go. Those are the best interviews you're going to have, because the purpose of an interview is to hear the person that you brought on. And I just started a podcast, so I'm learning that from the interviewer point of view. So I just started a podcast called The Cultural Perspective, where I'm going to talk through like hard issues and bring people on to discuss certain stuff that I agree with and I don't agree with. And when I don't agree with something, I'm gonna say it. So I don't pander with people to make it seem like that. But yeah, like you did a great job, man. Like you did a great job, like super good, really, really good job, really good.
I appreciate that, bro. And I hope to see you soon, perhaps at something, man. When we get out of this and we chop it up some more.
I'm coming somewhere. I don't care where you at. We gonna be somewhere.
I'm in New York City. Come to New York City.
Oh yeah, I definitely got to come to NY. Y'all a little too open up there for me right now.
It's a bit open. I'm in Staten Island, so
nice.
Home of the Woo.
The Woo. I was gonna say the Woo. Yeah.
That's what we got. Yeah. We got like pizza. We have the Staten Island dump, and we have Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
And I'm here.
And that's
man. You. All right, man. But I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much.
God bless, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Peace.
Peace.